racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get full!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognize brake markers, you'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid, you'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise. And you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS Quick Reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire Global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing. This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the top sim racing championship in the AusNZ sim racing community, the virtual racing school V8SCOPS, presented by Too Easy Finance and run by the wonderful people over at Oceanic Sim Racing. This is the fourth round of the championship from the magnificent Road Atlanta circuit in virtual Braselton, Georgia. This is a track that has turned up fantastic racing in past seasons of the championship, and I'm certainly looking forward to getting another night of racing under our belts at this brilliant track. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Daniel Yeaman with me in the commentary box once again. Dan, we love Road Atlanta, put on some fantastic racing in the support series on Friday night, but now we get to the main game. How are these guys going to tackle this historic circuit?
Yeah, we'll have to see how things go tonight. Thank you for the introduction, Reese, and thank you to everyone who's tuning in to join us for the racing tonight here. And indeed, should be a good one. We've seen a good start to the overall weekend with the support series, as you mentioned there, Reese, on Friday night. And, well, hopefully we'll set the stage for another good night's worth of racing here. Of course, two races coming your way tonight. Super Split 2 up first, and then the main game event, a single race for those guys tonight. Before we get into the racing, let's have a quick look at the track map here on screen with you now, folks. Of course, 12 corners around here, but it's an American circuit, so the American cornering system is absolutely ridiculous, such as the fact that apparently turn 4 is at the middle of the S's there, towards the top half of that section, and then there's no corners until you get to the bottom of said S's, but a lot of high-low corners, fantastic amount of track elevation change as you go up and down said S's, as well as the back end of the circuit too, and plenty of curbs to use as well there, Reese, in that opening sector before you then sort of open up into that middle half of the track and that long backstretch run from turn 7 all the way down to turn 10A. That obviously will be where we keep our eyes peeled for major overtaking moves under brakes here.
Yeah, a lot of slipstreaming to be done down that back stretch, and a little bit of follow the leader probably through the S's and into turn 5. The exit of turn 5 is another place that we'll have to really watch out for tonight, because there's an awful lot of space beyond the circuit that you are able to use to extend your exit. But having said that, it is very bumpy out there over that curbing. It's going to be quite interesting to see how many drivers push the limits and go over the limits at Road Atlanta today. There is likely going to be a few spins out of turn 5, probably a couple of big contact spins into turn 2. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of overtaking opportunities, as you mentioned, Dan, turns 10A and 10B, the prime overtaking place on the circuit. We might also see some moves being done into turn 7 at the start of the back stretch, and definitely turn 1 is one of those places where you'll definitely be able to send one up the inside. But having said that, it's going to open you up to an attack from the driver you just passed, an over-under up the hill into turn 2.
Absolutely, indeed. I mean, the other things, rather than, there's more to it here at this track, I should say, than just the 10A, 10B approach, but certainly is going to be the major one. And that risk of trying to gamble on an early overtaking pass at the start of the S's, that could easily go one of two ways, depending on the cooperation you get between the drivers on track, Reese. So certainly, while there could be some great moves that do get pulled off there, I think, that will be a really dangerous spot in case someone really tries to defend their spot to the bitter end in particular. But I guess in that case, we'll wait and see. Thankfully, not too long before we find out who's willing to roll that dice here in Split 2 at least. And then we'll keep our fingers crossed. It's a long race, of course, for Split 1. We'll talk about them later, though. And patience will be the name of the game, I dare suspect, in that main category.
Indeed. Well, we've got an update to bring to you all in terms of the calendar. Donington Park was originally scheduled to host the next round of the championship in a couple weeks' time, but there's a conflict with the real-life Bathurst 12-hour weekend. So the administration team have decided to move the Donington round to round 9 on July the 24th. So Highlighted in green there for your visual convenience, that is when we're going to be running at Donington Park. That makes the next round of the championship at Interlagos on the 29th of May. A nice long break for the drivers to get themselves together for the 5th round.
That's true, Reese. Yeah, it does open up that gap there with no replacement round, and just the other dates for Interlagos, Sebring, Motegi, and Sonoma all kept where they were. But it means we're going to have an absolutely bumper June through early August phase there with rounds 7 through 10. And of course, round number 10, Phillip Island, the beginning of our Endurance Cup, first of our 500-kilometre endurance rounds, to be precise, will mean that, of course, that's going to be a very busy period with all of those sprint single driver events before you build into the beginning of the endurance mini series here for the V8 SCOPS 2022 season. So, yeah, obviously, a break after tonight will be nice, I'm sure, but yeah, getting back into the things once we hit June. So starting to really get into our stride once we get to about that halfway phase of this season.
Yes, and the eagle-eyed among you will spy Sandown Raceway as round 14. Of course, that is subject to change depending on when the track is released by iRacing. It's confirmed that Sandown has been scanned and is currently in production. Winton was already released in the most recent build, and I'm certainly hoping that Sandown Raceway gets out before the month of November so that we can run it and potentially give a good send-off to Sandown in real life, since it seems that it's edging closer and closer to being demolished to make way for housing. But we'll keep the negative stuff by the by for now and get into Split 2 action. There's only 30 seconds left in the practice session before the drivers head on into a 27-lap race. And it's looking quite dark out there on the circuit. Lot of, well, not so much cloud cover, but the sun is quite low in the sky at the moment. It's early morning conditions here, 8:48 a.m. in sim time, and being in morning conditions, the track is quite cold. It's an 18 degrees Celsius air temperature. The track's only 20 degrees, so that carries with it a few caveats. You will feel like you have more grip available to you when the tyres come up to temperature, but they will be on ice when the tyres are cold, and any slight slides that you have will be exaggerated and will be a little more difficult to recover. Let's go through the grid then for our first race of the night here in Super Split 2. Corey Preston ran the fastest time in pre-qualifying outside the top 40. He'll start on pole alongside James Chastaneuf. Hayden Sell starts in third alongside Dylan Rudd for 9.5 Simsport. Damien Johnstone starts alongside Adam Hain to round out the top 6. It's Hayden Veld and Logan Barnett who line up on the 4th row. Michael Schreier and Zach Ski are in 9th and 10th. Meanwhile, it's Cameron Veacock and Benjamin Smith rounding out the top 12.
Going over the page, it's Thomas Hinz, who will start at position number 13 with Bailey Frid alongside him in 14th place. Blake Delaney starts out of row 8 and he's joined by Adam Blocker, joining the series there out in 16th place for the 74 car. Cameron Jones, 17th place, starting alongside Jamie Dyke in 18th. And then we have Michael Whiting and Matty Jones sharing the 10th row tonight here for Split 2. Thomas Freeman and Christopher Island on row 11. And then David Coleman out of 23rd has Steve Jenkins alongside him for 24th place.
Starting out at 25th, it's going to be the 654 of Craig Schultz. He starts alongside Paul Young. Vincent Skilbeck and Tyler Blackburn are going to share the 14th row of the grid. Then it's Ben Morris and Synergy Sim Racing United Sim Sports Jamie McKnight in 30th place. Simon Chadwick is going to start out of 31st alongside Brady Baldwin for High Octane Sim Sports. Then it's Stephen Kokoschke, David Kirby, Luke Mitchinson, and Aaron Gilbert on the 18th row. Final few cars, Andrew Ritchie, Braden Martin, and Damien Cairns, the last drivers to start our race. Simon Black and Michael Korolev are there in race control and manning the Logitech G safety cars just in case there is a big enough incident out on track, and they will have to be called out onto the circuit. But now the wait almost ends. 3, 2, and 1 on my timer at least, but we've given a little bit of extra time here to go through the grid and for the drivers to prepare for this race start. The sun is dipping up above the horizon now, so it's going to start heating up the racetrack in over the course of this 27-lap race. And before we get started here properly, Dan, we should mention that there is a mandatory pit stop in this race the drivers will have to come in and take at least 2 tyres, but there's no fuel restrictions.
Yep, I would expect most drivers should therefore have enough fuel on board already to do the race as they so choose. And then they have the flexibility to play with the tyres here, given that the window opens at the end of lap number 2 and closes at the end of lap 25 here. Now, that actually is a fairly important thing, though, if we're coming towards the end of the race and people are gambling on going a bit long. You have to make sure that you don't come in too late if you happen to go a lap down, as that lap 25 figure is in relation to the lead lap cars, which is a little extra thing there. But for the most part, I would expect everyone here should be pitting roughly around the halfway mark, Reese. But then again, cold track temperatures here. We'll have to see if anyone gambles on a slightly earlier pit stop and then try to make full advantage of a fresh set of tyres to get some spots in that halfway stage of the race here.
Yeah, well, I was beginning to feel a bit concerned for Corey Preston there because he had the pit limiter on. That's why his lights were flashing, but he's taken that off now, and we should get off to a nice start here at Road Atlanta. Super Split 2 about to begin. The timer hits 0 and the revs rise. It's time for round 4 of V8SCOPS action. We start off with the drivers outside the top 40 in pre-qualifying. The flag drops and away we go. A little bit of a puff of smoke there from Hayden Sell, but a good start from him. Also good start from Corey Preston and James Chastanerf at the front of the field. A little bit of a bog down at the moment from the 333 of Zach Skay, and we've already got a car off. That's unfortunate there for the Holden of Logan Barnett. It's going to take, oh dear, it looks like there's been a crash in the midfield. Couple of drivers involved in that, Mitchinson one of them, and it's gone on at turn 2.
Yeah, David Coleman is currently off in the grass just before the apex of turn 2. And now having to wait for the last couple of cars to make their way through as the rest of the field. Oh no, middle of the S's, that's massive. 3 cars at least. Brady Baldwin, Stephen Kokoschka, David Kirby, all tripped up in that one at least. There could be more involved as well, we're being told. Yes, at turn 5, that is Vincent Skillback in the 091's been tripped up separately there, Reese. Yeah, it's popping off here. First lap of 27. These guys are going out pretty aggressively here from the get-go as the field now comes down the back straight for the first time. More or less single file for now. Tyler Blackman's slow off of turn 7. His car looks okay, so clearing a slow down it looks like. And that means he's going to lose some more spots, not the way he when he goes to the end of the 10A10B. Side by side at the front of the field there, that's Dylan Rudd and Hayden Sell going at it. Yes, it is. Oh, car's off in the grass. One of the Cameron Jones in the Century Motorsports car. 3 wide on the exit of 10B there, Reese. And it is, again, absolutely hectic up and down the field as lap 1 is complete. And look at this train here. There's maybe a tiny semblance of calm, but even then, cars looking inside, outside. 3 wide for turn 1 in the mid-pack. Oh, wow, one of the Senate Simsports cars with Jones and Jamie Dyke.
Oh, no, oh, no.
Oh, on turn 3, the S has caught another person here, Reese.
Yeah, that's Benjamin Smith who's been sent off, unfortunately. It looks like that was contact with Bailey Fred. Just a rear quarter getting done there, and poor Benjamin was sent right off. But most of the field is formed into single file for the time being. I think we might have to flick up a little earlier because Thomas Hins, oh goodness, Thomas Hins is trying around the outside of Bailey Fred at turns 6 and 7. There was ever so slight contact between them. Fred is going to have the inside for the exit, but Hins was able to get on the power just a little earlier. The field are starting to separate into groups now based on those moves being made around the circuit. But back to the lead, I should say, because Corey Preston is under attack from James Chastanerf. Chasty tries up the inside of 10A, and Preston gets forced off the circuit there. It's going to be 3 wide for the lead. Big slide from James Chastanerf, but look at that. Oh, dear, contact further between Preston and Chasty's going to spin it in the middle of the final corner. Preston goes into the wall. That's a huge change for the lead. Dylan Rudd was right there to take advantage, though, and he moves into first place as Damian Johnstone goes up the inside of Adam Hain here, and this is going to now be for 4th place that these guys are fighting for. 3rd, I should say. Han Hain is hung out to dry there, as is Hayden Veld. Goodness me, there's been so much drama here, and we've only just started lap 3. Oh, there goes Hayden Veld. Big contact with the 333 of Zach Ski. They're going to go firing back onto the circuit. That gets Thomas Hins involved. Bailey Frid sticks through and spun across the front of them. Oh, is Hayden Veld. Thomas Hins was an innocent victim there, and it's something that he's no stranger to, getting involved in other people's incidents through no fault of his own, and you can see he's already not too happy with how things have gone.
Yeah, no wonder, because he just was able to pull it up and avoid the incident at turn 5 initially. And you'd like to think in his case there, he's going to be like, all right, I've avoided that. We're going to be able to keep going there, Reese. But no. Ski and Vel continuing to clash there, and it comes undone for the 52 as the next car on the scene. And yeah, he is definitely making his displeasure felt there. Unfortunately, it means that we're going to, well, the racing keeps going and we need to keep looking at it because, for example, here, Matthew Brunt up the inside of Craig Schultz at 10:18. Oh, car off in the grass there. Logan Barnett in the 011 has had an absolute shocker at 10A. He's well out in the gravel and only just rejoining the circuit now. Something has happened for him, unfortunately, here in the lap 3. And, well, yeah, I just can't keep my eyes focused on any one spot because, well, if you try to, something happens somewhere else and then you go back to look somewhere else again.
Yeah, this has been a chaotic start to the race. We do flick back, though, to this battle for 6th. Bailey Frid has recovered from those earlier tangles, and he's currently involved here for that 7th spot with Cameron Bucock and Adam Blocker. We're right on board with Blocker now. Something's going on.
Yeah, Tyler Blackman's found the grass down the S's. Unfortunately, that car is just bashed the tyres. And now down in the 34th place is the 947, but you can see an excellent pass from Vcock at turn 7 in the meantime there. That gets him ahead of Bailey Frid, but surely the slipstream back down the straight here will put Vcock under pressure, and Adam Blocker is sitting right there, ready to pounce if something goes wrong, or to possibly just make a move all the same here. He tucks in behind, Vcock does Blocker. Frid already got a nose ahead with the slipstream, and he's got the inside for 10A. He should have that one done fairly easily there, Reese, indeed. Deep on the brakes, but looks to have that done. Vcock, though, I think a bit deep, trying to counter. Was a bit deep, Reese, but able to hang on to it there. Blocker holds his position in 8th for now as there is the car. There goes Vincent Skilbeck and Luke Mitchinson. They're currently running around towards the back of the top 30, and unfortunately there, Mitchinson's car, wounded from lap 1, losing a rear wing, and Skilbeck has had a spin earlier, but looks to be carrying on all right. Oh, no! Deep at turn 1, Thomas Hins. And that's taken Craig Schultz with him. Hayden Veld in behind also goes wide, but Schultz rear end first into the tyres, way out in turn 1. And the rejoin has almost caused trouble at turn 3, but they're carrying on in the mid-pack as we look back towards the front of the field here, Reese.
Oh, goodness, it is all going on all throughout the field here. It's pretty ridiculous, actually, the amount of action and incidents we've seen already. I hope the field calms down, at least by the time we get to the pit stop phase. Well, this is the battle for the lead. Dylan Rudd leading by 1.1 seconds. Damian Johnstone, though, he's going to have to start looking over his shoulder potentially for the likes of Adam Payne. Have to wait and see, though. It actually looks like Damian Johnstone is the fastest car in the top 5 at the moment and the fastest car on track. That last lap he set was the fastest of the race so far, 119.24. Let's see what they do across the line to start lap 5 now that they've finally been able to get some rhythm in. It's a 19.4 from our leader Dylan Rudd, but Damian Johnstone continuing to turn up the pace as Bailey Frid comes in for a penalty. He's been black flagged for that incident on lap 2 that put Benjamin Smith out into the grass.
Yeah, iRacing's going to have a busy time here, and cars starting to bring in early pit stops. We've already seen, well, pardon me, at the very back earlier of the race, Matty Jones has brought his car down onto the lane on lap 3, so taking, I think, the first possible opportunity to get his car in. Unfortunately, that will be a very long haul for him as there's a car out in the grass currently. Ben Smith, actually, in his race on Oscar, went wide of turn 1 as we continue to watch the Hayden Veld and Thomas Hins in the lane. And we'll see how long they're in the pits forward. Look at these guys. Oh, Smith wide again. This time through the S's, Reese. That's, just come out in the middle of traffic there. And as a result, Damian Cairns up the inside he goes. Braden Martin looking to try and maintain his rhythm, which has just been all of a sudden completely disrupted there. And then we've got the 947. That is the 927 of Andrew Ritchie there. Also looking to mind his own business as these guys continue on here now with Smith there. Look, that's actually got past Braden Martin again to try and recover, and that's completely balked the Locked On iRacing Commodore there, Reese. Now he's going to come under attack from all these guys. They run down the straight. Who gets the slipstream off Ben Smith? Ritchie so far is in a good spot. David Coleman's thinking about something. Makes it 2 by 2 in a straight line here, but on the brakes early, going to try and tuck back into line. Oh, no contact between Smith and Martin. That puts Smith around, and everyone gets backed up hard at 10B.
Oh, that is huge. There was nowhere for the pursuing pack to go when Smith flicked back around. Bailey Frid was right there. Brady Baldwin, Tyler Blackburn, and Logan Barnett all involved in that. Plenty of damage to all of those cars. Frid has lost his bonnet and is now trying to get back past Martin here.
Meanwhile, now back up towards the front of the field race. And here's the fight for P2. Damian Johnston and Hayden Sell going out towards turn 6 there. And Johnston gets his nose back ahead there, if I'm not mistaken. And he's currently also got Adam Hayden for pressure too. So top 5 cars still there contesting that. And pardon me, that's actually Johnston getting P2 on merit there and getting past Sell for first time in a little while there. So there's our guys pursuing our race leader, and then the next pack headed up by Cameron Veacock there in position number 6 as they streak their way down the back straight. So obviously these guys here probably looking to try and consolidate where they are for now, as they've had a pretty decent race so far here in this part of the pack. Of course, everything thankfully so far has gone on behind them, but there are drivers in that group who have been making good gains. Adam Blocker up 9 spots, Thomas Freeman and Chris Ireland both up 13. Our biggest mover looks to be, it is Aaron Gilbert and Matthew Brunt, each up 17 spots. Meanwhile, almost 3 wide down into 10A. That's a bit risky there, as we're having a look at, that's Tyler Blackburn, Andrew Ritchie and David Coleman. Looks like they all get through though finally. Negotiate that one without too much fuss, and more action from race control. Reese Cameron Jones issued a black flag penalty for an incident he was involved in on lap number 3.
Yeah, well, all of the incidents are blending into each other at the moment. I couldn't tell you what that was specifically for, but we're right on board with the holding of Tyler Blackburn as he chases down MU Sim Racing's Andrew Ritchie. Oh, big lockups there into turn 2. It's all about the exit here through turn 3 and down through the S's. You want to try and stay in touch with the driver in front. And as I mentioned off the top of the broadcast, this exit of turn 5, there's a few different lines being taken there. The drivers who go further out are obviously a lot more comfortable. They have slightly better set up suspension. Don't want to run too wide over that curb, otherwise you will very easily spin, as Vincent Skilbeck almost did on the first lap. Let's see how that exit goes then, as there's more fighting going on here in the top 10. It's Thomas Freeman and Adam Blocker going side by side out of 10B. They're being chased down by Christopher Ireland and Blake Delaney. Oh goodness, big puff of smoke there. Yeah, that was interesting, but
that's
looks
from a
like
car ahead.
Yeah, getting the move done is Adam Blocker, or is he? Almost going 3 wide. Take it easy, boys. They just make it through turn 1 without any contact, and they should sort themselves out here now for a little bit of follow the leader through the S's. Wait for things to calm down a little bit before you try your next move at another place on the racetrack. Pit lane is coming alive again, though. We've got Cameron Jones in. He served that penalty. We've also got James Chastanerf, Matthew Brunt, and Andrew Ritchie in to serve service. And it looks like Chasty getting out of the lane all right there. Unfortunate for James. He started so well in this race in second, but involved in that fight with Corey Preston for the race lead. He is going to be scrapping for these minor positions. And oh dear, a little mistake coming out of the pits. Hey, look who's behind him. It's Preston.
Well, a bit of a good coincidence there that able to get back to fighting as we look back towards the front of the field. P2. Pardon me, it's P3. Hayden Sell under attack from Adam Hayne and Michael Schreier now. And yeah, thankfully, that pack of cars that we were chasing there, the group 7th on back. Now, interesting to note is that they've actually lost the back of Cameron Veacock, who was leading Blocker around there. So you can see Veacock there, back of shot. Oh, is that car parked a bit funny in the pit lane in the back of shot? That's also just caught my attention. Bright green race on Oz entry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Ben Smith has done was facing the wrong way on pit entry. So, Rodent Lancer continuing to provide more victims of its pit entry there. It's certainly one of the places where you can be far too aggressive and punish yourself either through hitting the Armco at the bottom of the entry, or if you're able to pull it up, you then spin it around and, well, cost yourself time at least and a bit of bruised pride. As you can see here, Cell's doing a good job to hang on to P3 race, but based on the way Johnson got through and is now checked out by 2 seconds, and now Adam Hayne and Michael Schreier both right on the bumper of that 897 car, and I reckon be passed in the not too distant future if past performance is anything to go by here at this stage.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but there goes the move from Michael Schreier. You'll see him come up on the right-hand side of Adam Hayne here. Schreier getting the slipstream. He can go for a move around the outside of 10A if you're brave enough, but it looks like Schreier's just deciding to keep it back there because Hayne went for the move, finally, on Hayden Sell, and gets by in that Anzac Day liveried sim-spec engineering car from Taipan Esports. Now, Schreier, one of the veterans of this series, driving for Synergy Sim Racing, might go for a move up the inside of turn 1. He goes and has the look. But will Hayden Sell give him room? No, Shreya reckons it's probably best just to sit behind a little longer. Shreya's one of the calmer and more logical racers in the V8SCOPS field, and he certainly likes to take his time with manoeuvres. More drivers in the pits on this lap include Thomas Freeman and Michael Whiting, pitting from just inside the top 20, but our focus will remain here on this battle for what is now P4 between Hayden Sell and Michael Shreya. I got to tell you something. You did mention how Jamie and Johnstone checked out from those guys once he passed. Johnstone has still got a huge amount of pace. Dylan Rudd in the lead has been able to respond, though, and run times a couple tenths faster. Have you seen something happen again?
Yeah, trouble at turn one. Brady Baldwin and James Chaston just got together, and I think Baldwin's car has fired into the fence pretty hard. And in fact, I can't even see where Baldwin's car has ended up. It's already back in the pit lane, so I think actually that will be possibly a minor reprimand for escaping without permission. Let's have a quick look at it here on the virtual racing school replay readers. Oh boy, live pictures tell a bit more trouble, but never mind this. So up the inside goes Matty Jones in the 087 there, and Chastity tries to follow through, and unfortunately Chastity, yeah, that's not going to cut it. And then Baldwin thankfully hits the tyres twice, but still that's enough damage to probably see his car done for the day.
That's a big ouch for Brady Baldwin, and very sad to see. You know, we were talking about Benjamin Smith making a mistake on pit entry earlier. He's still in the pits, but he's at 90 degrees to the pit lane. So he's had further issues, has Benjamin. That's a big shame there. But we focus on the battles here in the midfield. More drivers coming into the pits. Jamie Dyke, Jamie McKnight, Luke Mitchinson, and Bailey Frid. It seems like every time I find something to talk about, Dan, you see something happening.
Yeah, Corey Preston and Ben Morris have got together at the exit of 10B and are both currently parked up trying to get going again. So whilst we're just, I want to talk about this pit strategy that we're seeing here, as Preston there has recovered the car, but now brings it down the lane again. And well, after starting first place, that is definitely the 0 to 0 race. And joins the crew of cars, opting for a dramatic entry to pit lane. And has decided to end that one for himself there. So that's another driver who's probably ruining what could have been as we go back to the front of the field. And Hayden Sell under a lot of pressure again from Michael Shreya. Shreya not quite able to make it. Surely Shreya, yep, there it is. I was wondering how long Shreya opted to would stay behind, because he clearly had a better car at this phase. That means he should be able to play out the end part better here. If you can get the undercut now and then also look after the tyres better in the end part of the race, that should pay out nicely for him there as we watch these guys come past the start-finish line. Just heard producer Scott Fontaine exclaim a little something there, but unfortunately didn't quite see it, but a bit of a sideways moment for Simon Chadwick in the 9.5 Simsport injury. And another one of the teams this week, Reese, running a Anzac tribute paint job to a slightly revised design. And it is a good little tribute that we're seeing from many of the teams here in the V8SCOPS series this week.
Yes, indeed. If you're outside Australia and New Zealand, for your information, Anzac Day is tomorrow, the 25th of April. So we've got teams out there running tribute liveries, and certainly it's awesome to see those kinds of gestures. And got to say, of all the Anzac liveries I've seen, all of them look really good. We take a look, though, at this fight here coming out of turn 5, and Shreya and Coleman now fighting. Michael Shreya going into the pits there because he couldn't get past Hayden Sell on track. He'll be hoping for a little bit of an undercut here. Thanks to pitting just a little earlier. He's come out in 14th place. David Coleman has yet to pit, though. The leader of the drivers that have pitted is
Shreya.
Is Shreya, actually, yeah, because Cameron Jones, he did make a visit to pit lane, but as we mentioned before, that was for a penalty. Meanwhile, the racing goes on down the back stretch. Here's Jones and Young trying their best to sort themselves out. Almost bumper to bumper on the way in to 10A and 10B. On board then with Paul Young. He's had some pretty good performances, has Paul Young, since making his V8SCOPS debut earlier this year. And this is going to be a very fun fight for him. He's already up 7 places from where he started. Matty Jones only up 2. So Paul Young on a bit of a charge here. He's not going to be able to get the move done into turn 2, though. But coming down into 10A and 10B, we'll see what he can do versus Matty.
Indeed, we'll keep an eye on that one there. I think it's a real thing to note Reese, meanwhile, Michael Schreier is indeed, the leader of those who are pitted, has actually had a very good opening lap here in terms of potentially getting an undercut on Hayden Sell, because he came out of the pits, had a lap of clean air to get back up to speed, and then the moment he caught traffic in the form of Braden Martin, he got clear as up the inside at turn 7 goes Paul Young, not even going to bother waiting for 10A and 10B there, and gets the job done there quite nicely. We'll have to wait and see if the slipstream back, though, can help them out as more drivers into the pit lane, and that's important. Damien Johnson out of P2, along with Adam Hayne and Hayden Sell following him in this time by here, Reese.
And Dylan Rudd, our race leader, stays out. So this could be significant here for Mr. Johnstone, as Sell and Hayne follow him into the lane. Damien could potentially get a very nice undercut here with extra pace on these quicker tyres. He comes out just ahead of Cameron Jones and Tyler Blackburn. Now, how long does Rudd decide to stick this out? Because you've got all the way up to, I believe, the end of lap 25 in order to jump in for a pit stop. There is Rudd and Veacock, 9 seconds behind him. Let's see if Rudd decides to respond here by going into the pit lane this time around. It'll be interesting to see if he commits. Here we go. He does commit to the pit lane nice and early. Doesn't want to run it too long here because we are past the halfway point. Almost captures the wall on the way into the pit lane. It's a very difficult lane entry here at Road Atlanta, but we'll keep an eye here on the pit stop time. Now, Damien Johnstone's stop was 10.5 seconds, and that's towards the upper limit of what the pit stops usually take. We've seen around 9.5 to 10 seconds usually. So Dylan Rudd up on the jacks now. Cameron Veacock, Christopher Ireland, and Simon Chadwick follow him into the lane. Craig Schultz is going to move past. Adam Blocker is the one who leads, and that's a nice stop there from Dylan Rudd. 9.8 seconds, but is it going to be enough to cover off Damien Johnstone? Johnstone is now scored behind him, and it looks like 3.8 seconds is the gap. So now there's only going to be 10 laps with which for Johnstone to try and catch him up here.
Yeah, we'll have to see what that 0.33 can do, but Rudd able to get to the front there after the early entanglement for Preston and Chastaneuf. Was able to then, I think, comfortably sort of manage the pace and check out a bit there, whilst Johnson's had to make his way up a little bit there, and also scrapping with Cameron Veacock, who we see now in the pit lane. Actually, pardon me, Veacock's still...
while.
That is, yeah, that's not right. Yeah, clock's ticking up past 50 seconds. Yeah, speeding on pit entry, let me guess, because that time is exactly 40 seconds longer than the average we've seen so far. Drivers still out on track, including Blake Delaney and Adam Blocker. They're yet to pit. Neither driver coming down the lane this time, though, so they're clearly opting to play the ultra-long game here so far. Although, surely that will mean they will be at a disadvantage to the drivers they were racing earlier. And given that, yeah, Blocker we've seen racing in and around the top 10, well, in the earlier part of the race before the pit cycles began. Should see him drop back to around the...
Oh, no!
Oh, no! Who is that? Christopher Ireland, the 623. And now falling back down the order, already down to 20th place. We're going to have a look at that one there and see what the virtual racing school replay, pardon me, Reese, can tell us as they come down the back straight. Following the 118 of Thomas Freeman. And, well, this means it's most likely going to be on Ireland. If thing goes wrong, that's a big commitment dive on the brakes.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a gamble there. I'm not
Pretty
sure
clear.
that one was ever going to be able to pull that one up, to put that one mildly.
Yeah, Thomas Freeman obviously had every right to turn in there. It was a very late dive from Ireland. I don't think that Freeman was expecting him to be there. And there's been something else. Oh, looks like Blackburn.
Yeah, a little moment between Adam Hayne and Tyler Blackburn. And Adam Hayne is on fresh tyres and actually got out ahead of Michael Schreier. And, well, after that small mistake, slots back in and it redresses that spot immediately, which does release. So watch here, the 947 is ahead, and they're not 66 of Hayne, not quite there at turn 6. And as a result, Blackburn has to gather it back up, and then you'll see here just to the right of shot, Hayne backs it off, but that does release number 30 here to take that spot back that he lost, which actually does promote Schreier to P3 of those who have pitted, as we've got Craig Schultz and Cameron Jones now in for their pit service along with Blake Delaney. So they're now going to fall back down towards the rear of the top 10. But we'll now see what can Adam Blocker do and where does he file out eventually at the end of this all. Given that Delaney's come out in 9th place, it looks like. No, he's going to hang on to 9th just as we jump on board the 08 there. And Thomas Freeman in behind after that incident for him last lap around. That probably actually played quite the factor there. So also a good gauge here for Adam Blocker. He should fall back to about 10th place or thereabouts as we continue to look here at more drivers scrapping away, including Paul Young now trying to chase down Jamie Dyke here for 11th, Reece.
It's pretty much a 4-car battle there behind them. They've got James Chastaneuf and Simon Chadwick behind them too. Those two drivers up in front of him are Blake Delaney and Thomas Freeman. And Delaney has only just come out of the pits, still trying to hold off Freeman. That's a big lock up there on the way in for James Chastaneuf, and it's compromised his exit a little bit. It's going to allow Simon Chadwick to try and get it done here. Meanwhile, have a look at this. These guys fighting incredibly hard as that's Tyler Blackburn running in 6th. Looks like Adam Blocker has jumped into the lane right now, which releases Dylan Rudd back into the race lead. Damian Johnstone, meanwhile, he has not quite been able to make many inroads into Dylan Rudd. The gap has actually increased. It's now at 4.5 seconds for the race lead. Blocker, though, completes his pit stop. He should come out just ahead of that 11th place battle we were talking about. And it looks like he has indeed, just behind Thomas Freeman and Blake Delaney. We'll see then what Jamie Dyke can do there in 11th to try and catch back up to him. But he's got Paul Young right behind, and will be putting a lot of pressure on him for that position.
Yeah, Blocker's actually pulled that pit strategy off pretty nicely there. Has lost out to Blake Delaney a little bit there, having slotted him behind Freeman. So showing there the advantage of coming anyway. Paul Young shows the nose at turn 6 there, but nothing coming of it this time by. So has to slot in. Little tyre lock ahead there, and a tyre lock from Jamie Dyke in the meantime. That's going to possibly... I was going to say, I think that would compromise the runoff of turn 7, but looks like that's not the case as James Chastaneuf joins the party a little bit more properly this time by as we jump on board with the 427. See here down the back straight, he's not actually as close as I thought he might be, Reece. So you can see Paul Young tracking Jamie Dyke, and Dyke looks a little early on the brakes into 10A, and actually he's giving Paul Young half a chance around the outside, which is a bit of a gamble. Not able to make it work though. Young has to slot back in, and that will compromise the exit slightly and bring Chastaneuf right to his bumper through the last couple of corners, but going to play it nice and smart here. These guys with a lap 20 now being started, so 8 to go here for these guys as we come into this final phase of the Super Split 2 race. Looking back up towards position number 10, and Adam Blocker has gotten through there on Thomas Freeman, Reece.
Has indeed. Blocker's going on a nice charge at the moment.
Oh no,
Paul Young's had
Young.
a problem. Yeah, Paul Young's had a problem. I saw him running down the timing sheet as well. That is a big incident there for Young. He was doing so well just a few moments ago, but now his boot lid is completely disintegrated. We'll have a look at what happened to him here. Doesn't look like there are other cars involved.
Oh, the rejoin.
It was the rejoin, was it? Let's see then. Oh no, I just see it there. Paul Young on the racetrack, and oh well, I mean, I think he saw the rejoin happening and got on the brakes, but the rear end broke free for some reason.
Yeah, I was actually going to refer. I was going to refer to the rejoin that Paul Young then committed, Reece. Actually, I stayed live whilst having an eye on the footage. Yeah, Jamie Dyke gets completely crossed up, and then just up on the curb there, just enough traction loss at the rear end of Paul Young's car, and around he goes. Front and rear contact with the fence there. So he waited a while, but then at the end of it all, he pulled back out and was all the way across the track, and cars coming down the hill blind to his outer position and low speed. And it was Logan Barnett in the 011 machine that was, well, caught off guard and straight up the rear end of the number 6 for Paul Young. James Chastaneuf back on the pit lane here. Pardon me. Yep, there we go. Whilst I'm distracted, incident from lap 11 for Chastaneuf has been issued. Yes, the black flag penalty there. Thank you for keeping me up to date on that one there, Reece. As Logan Barnett into the pit lane once again in the 011, and Paul Young also joining him in. So serious damage to those cars. I mean, I don't think we'll see them continue on in this race, unfortunately.
Yes, well, in other news, Adam Hayne got past Michael Schreier, but Schreier now trying to get back past him for 3rd place and gets that done nicely via the slipstream. Will there be a response from Adam Hayne? No, he slots in behind. He'll wait until the next lap to try and get it done. The two drivers behind them, Blackburn and Coleman. Coleman has yet to come into the pits, and he's defending quite hard here from Hayden Sell. He's got to come into the pits at some point. Does he decide to do it this time? No, he's just going to stay out here and make life hard for everyone behind him on fresher tyres. Coleman going super long here. Now, that opens up a potential move. They're almost going 3-1. Adam Blocker up the inside of both Thomas Freeman and Blake Delaney there to snatch away 8th position. This is some good battling, but just ahead of them, Hayden Sell tapping off David Coleman. And Coleman going to just try and make sure that he gets back on track cleanly. He does that, but I reckon we'll see him in the pits at the end of this lap. He's fought on as long as he can, and those tyres just aren't keeping up with his ambition.
Yeah, perhaps so, Reese. And, well, after the argy-bargy we saw there down at 10A, 10B, with Hayden Sell in particular, but yeah, the rest of that group there right behind as a result, well, maybe a little bit of turnabout fair play perhaps, but not entirely sure, given I didn't quite see that. And ideally, we don't want to see drivers forcing each other off the road if we can avoid it. As these guys, look at them just wheeling around in the straight line, trying to maintain absolute precision in the slipstream. Adam Blocker pulling to the inside of Hayden Sell this time at 10A. He's there on the brakes. Just got to finish the move here. And a little deep. Yeah, he was there, but Sell reopens the door at 10B. Blocker's cautious enough to give the space back. And as a result, Blocker's actually going to lose the spot to Thomas Freeman.
Well, there we go. Let's see if Thomas Freeman can carry this momentum forward and pass Hayden Sell into turn 1. Fires it towards the inside a little bit earlier, but I think that's more for sightline than anything else. This battle will be ongoing towards the end of the race at this stage. These guys have been fighting tooth and nail over what is now 5th position. David Coleman is the one car that has yet to come into the pit lane, and he is dropping off these guys massively. You see him there in the background now, just not able to keep up the pace. Here we go then. Hayden Sell on the way into turn 6. He's gotten a nice gap over Thomas Freeman. Adam Blocker will be trying to get this position back. Freeman, though, is the driver in this battle that has gained the most positions. He's up 15 places from where he started, and he'll be looking to make it 16 here on Hayden Sell, who has just fallen backwards ever so slightly lap on lap since the race started. Slipstream time once again down the back straight through the nice blending corner of turn 9. No moves being made here, but you see just how hard they get on the brakes here for 10A and 10B. I know from talking to Madison Down some time ago that you can actually put the brake pedal fully to the floor in these cars through that dip on the way into the chicane. And these cars don't have anti-lock brakes, so that's pretty significant, the amount of brake pedal travel you can actually use. We've had a couple of drivers come into the lane a bit earlier. One of them is David Coleman. He's finally coming in to get his service done. And there we go. As we like to say here at SimSpeed, the field is cleansed. David Coleman now getting his pit stop done, and he's going to fall outside the top 20 now as a result of that. Reasonably good stop as well at 9.8 seconds.
Yeah, I was a bit curious to see he just persisted for that long there. But as a result, in fact, falling down the field even further to 28th place on pit exit. So, Sell, meanwhile, back up at the top of the field. A little wide on the exit of turn 6 race. He's able to gather it back up and not lose anything there, but that certainly makes him vulnerable to attack, you'd think, down the straightaway. We just saw there, Schreier and Hayne still glued nose to tail, and Hayne pulling to the inside for 10A. He's already ahead on the brakes. Should have that one done there. Looks like he will. Schreier, though, certainly trying to set up a better exit out of 10B. He's certainly got a better exit there. Hayne perhaps a little bit tail happy, trying to make sure he gets the job done here. But these two guys got 3 more laps to sort this one out between them. Who will have that final step on the podium at this stage? Could go either way for sure.
Yeah, this is a very close battle that these guys are having, and the moves are being made down in 10A and 10B. For these guys, at least, they're not trying to make moves anywhere else on the track. Meanwhile, that is a change for position between Thomas Hins and Luke Mitchinson, and Simon Chadwick there just behind him. Christopher Ireland back into the pit lane for the second time. That's a black flag for him for the incident on lap 16. Now, it'll be 3rd place that Schreier and Hayne are fighting over, but they won't get a chance to race any further tonight. The golden ticket is what the drivers are racing for. The winner of race 2, the winner of split 2, sorry, is the one who gets the honours of racing in split 1. We check out Hayden Veld and Matty Jones, though. These guys are fighting over 9th and 10th, and oh, that's a good exit there from Veld. Had to compromise himself just a little bit with Matty Jones very close to him and having an oversteer moment out of turn 7. But I don't know if Veld's going to be able to hold on for this one. Around the outside into 10A. It can work, but you've got to be pretty much ahead of the driver in front. And it looks like very even on brakes between these two. Jones is going to try to keep the position. Would have picked up an off-track there, cutting the corner. Tries the over-under on Hayden Veld, but no space to get it done there on the exit. Will he fire it up the inside into the final corner, though? Yes, he will. Veld has to give him a little bit of room, but Matty Jones thinks better of it and backs out. Ah, that's a good battle there. Matty is another one of those drivers that's been working his way up through the field. He's up 10 places.
Yeah, there's been a lot of movers up the field indeed, and definitely a couple of drivers, though, losing out in exchange. But yeah, we've got, let's see, Thomas Freeman up 16 spots and Matty Jones up 10 now. Two big movers inside that top 10 group of the curve. But Jamie McKnight back in 12th place is up 18 spots. Craig Schultz is 14th and up 11 as Chasneff is down on the lane. Another black flag for him. Unfortunately, we'll see him slump further down the order, and definitely more spots lost for him. And there we go, change the position for P5 Freeman through on Cell. So finally, that 897 car, I think I've really been seeing him recently really struggling with the rear tires and trying to push that car a bit too hard. And well, now certainly showing signs, but he's going to have another slipstream run back past Freeman, potentially on the outside for 10A. That's a gamble. We just said last time around for Jones and Veld there, Reese, but nothing of it this time by Blocker, though. Looking to get back past Cell here. No, he's going to have to slot back in line as these guys are going to take the white flag and have got 4 kilometres of racing left tonight.
Well, it could go either way here in the battle for 5th. It could also go either way in the battle for 3rd. Adam Hayne and Michael Schreier are still close, but Dylan Rudd is facing no pressure at all. He has got an 8-second lead over Damian Johnstone. An excellent job from Rudd to keep his nose clean and take advantage of mistakes from others where they have been made. So no pressure, no change for the lead, at least as of yet. And this will be the critical exit here for Michael Schreier if he wants to get 3rd. He has got a good exit there. Excellent throttle application, power down from the Synergy Sim Racing Mustang. And doesn't look like it's quite going to be enough, though. There's going to be no change for position between these two, or is there? The late end of the straight means there's a lot of slipstream there for Schreier, but we should look ahead to Dylan Rudd because he's the one who's going to come across the line and take victory here tonight in V8SCOPS Super Split 2 at Road Atlanta. The battle's still ongoing for 5th place, though. Hayden Cell defending like mad from Thomas Freeman. He's going to get that done. Almost a change for position between Blake Delaney and Adam Blocker. Freeman has picked up a slowdown. Thomas Freeman. Or has he run out of fuel? I'm not too sure. Oh, he's out of fuel. That's a big shame for Thomas Freeman. He was running so well. Could he lose more positions coming up to the line? Veld passes him. Jones passes him. Whiting passes him. It looks like McKnight and Hinz are going to get him too.
Yeah, that is an incredibly unexpected strategic blunder there, to be honest, there from Freeman. And clearly didn't quite account for just a bit too much fuel burn as the rest of the field makes their way across the line. And we'll talk about the results in a second. But yeah, Dylan Rudd, class of the field. Once it sort of calmed down there at the front tonight at 990, we'll be back out in action, we hope, for the main event. And it would be nice to actually see the Split 2 winner join the main game, as it's been a couple of weeks, Reece, since we've actually seen our Split 2 winner be able to race in the main event. But also important there at the end of that race there, we'll talk about the results in a second, but Adam Hayne, importantly, holding on to 3rd place ahead of Schreier in 4th, and he was definitely saying Schreier, an experienced pair of hands and a sensible pair of hands as well, to be short, and opted not to throw it all away at the end of that one there, and settle for 4th place there. And Hayden Cell, actually, importantly, he got past Freeman, but I wonder if that was, that was Freeman trying to fuel save and had to basically give it up before it finally coughed its last on the exit of 10B there.
Yeah, it looks like that might be what happened. Well, with everyone now across the line, we can go through our official results for Super Split 2 here at Road Atlanta. Presented by Too Easy Finance, part of the virtual racing school V8SCOPS. Dylan Rudd takes it by 8.6 seconds from Damien Johnstone. Adam Hayne getting past in the late stages for third. Michael Schreier in fourth. Hayden Sellers going to round out the top five. Blake Delaney, Adam Blocker, Veld, Jones and Whiting will round out your top 10.
And then Jamie Knight there gets it home in 11th place, and Thomas Hinz also home in 12th. They both sneak ahead of Thomas Freeman there in the 118 car. So 13th place for him after being on for a top 5 finish. That is going to have to hurt this tonight. Craig Schultz brings it home next in 14th place ahead of Cameron Jones, there in 15th. Steve Jenkins in 16th with Jamie Dyke next back in 17th. He was just ahead there of Aaron Gilbert. So a scrap there, unfortunately, that we missed, but 17th and 18th for those two guys. And then it's Simon Chadwick and Luke Mitchinson rounding out the top 20 here.
Tyler Blackburn just got past Vincent Skilbeck for 21st in the final corner of the race. Christopher Ireland down one position, unfortunately, had to come into the pits for a black flag. Cameron Veacock, 24th place and 13 places down. Big shame for him. David Coleman down to 25th. Andrew Ritchie made up quite a few places. He gets to 26th, up 12 places. Bailey Frid was involved in some drama throughout, has to settle for 27th. Damien Cairns comes home in 28th. James Chastaneuf, with 2 black flags to his name, has to settle for 29th after starting second. That has got to sting. Matthew Brunt, meanwhile, rounds out the top 30.
And over the page, Stephen Kokoschka, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, and 31st to his name tonight in the 851. And then Ben Morris and Braden Martin in the wars a bit tonight, 32nd and 33rd for them, 1 lap down respectively. And then into our early retirements, or late retirements, in particular for Logan Barnett, Paul Young and David Kirby. They're all 7 laps short. Zach Ski, unfortunately tangled up mid-race, finishes 12 laps short. And then our earlier retirements in Brady Baldwin, Corey Preston and Benjamin Smith, 17 laps for Baldwin Preston there, and then 19, unfortunately, for Smith. So definitely a race that could have been for a lot of those guys there towards the back of the field. And clearly, a bit of high attrition tonight in Super Split 2. Not something we hope to see in Split 1, but may certainly be a indication of what is to come later on. We're going to take a quick break here at SimSpeed TV, and we'll come back soon in just a moment's time when we're ready for the end of practice and qualifying for the main event. Stay with us, and we'll be back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. V8S coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, V8S one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
With 2022 Season 2, the GT3 class receives a substantial aerodynamic overhaul based on newly acquired data. This new model prominently displays many real-world characteristics such as stall of both the splitter and diffuser at very low ride heights, stall of the rear diffuser at very high ride heights, a much greater emphasis on roll and pitch sensitivity in terms of performance, more realistic use of chassis rake and wing angles to determine total downforce level, and finally, more accurate total downforce and drag numbers. In association with this, various cars throughout the class have received updates to their available spring and anti-roll bar packages. This is to provide more appropriate options for controlling the aerodynamic platform. As such, you will find that softer spring rates have been removed in some cars, while additional stiffer spring rates have been added in their place. Along with this aerodynamic update, the class also sees a further update to the tyre specification. To retain close parity with real-world lap times, overall tyre grip has reduced slightly, and tyre life has also seen a revision. While wear lives will typically still be acceptable for double stinting, overall tyre performance will now degrade more appropriately with temperature effects, thus resulting in reduced tyre performance in the second stint. So what does this mean in driving? Well, the first thing that you will notice is greatly improved high-speed cornering and braking capabilities, with deceleration from high speed being particularly improved. This allows you to really stand on the brake pedal aggressively and make use of the increased downforce before bleeding off pressure as you approach turning. Medium speed cornering is going to feel somewhat similar to what you've been used to, while low speed cornering will require a more careful application of the throttle and greater emphasis on rotating the car early in the corner. Overall limit feel in these situations will feel improved despite these relatively slower speeds. When first exploring the cars after the update, I would suggest using the iRacing Sprint setup and selecting a track with lots of sweeping corners and elevation changes. It might sound daunting, but tracks such as the Nürburgring Nordschleife and Mount Panorama are where this update really shines, and you'll be able to get a good feel and understanding of the updated aerodynamics and tyre.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. Feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Fowler, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go.
Oh no!
is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
You're watching the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS Championship for 2022. We've already had some pretty high-octane action in Super Split 2, but now we will get to the Split 1 action. It's the Road Atlanta 250. We return to our standard round format, 250 kilometers with 2 mandatory pit stops. Will be interesting to see how the drivers stack up, especially considering they have a qualifying session to negotiate. To bring it to you all live once again here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, if I can get my words in order, and Daniel Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box. Well, Dan, that start of Split 2 was pretty hectic, I have to say. We could barely tell where to look with all the action that was going on all through the field. Will Split 1 be the same?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, won't we, Reese? We certainly don't want it to be the same for the sake of the drivers who, well, in the case of the Split 2 drivers who got entangled and had to pit early, take repairs, and end up off the pace and out of position. Certainly not the way you want to see people's races end, especially that early. Even in a 27-lap, 110k race that we had on just then, that's bad enough as it is. Whereas, well, we're going to get a 250k, 62-lap race here tonight, which means, well, bowing out early, that's going to be even more painful for those who, well, suffer that pain should it come to pass. So hopefully the drivers in Split 1 here tonight are very much willing to play the patient game. Very different track conditions as well. Hopefully that will shape their response somewhat as well here. So I'm just watching a couple of guys run here in practice. They're giving it a bit of a whirl and getting a feel for things. But yeah, it's a very different place out there. A much hotter track currently, to be precise, than we saw with the Split 2 event. But before we get into the practice session that we're currently watching in the background, let's have a look at the track map once again, Reese. Just over 4 kilometers in length around this venue, 12 turns, but the Americans can't count, so never mind that, I guess. But of course, the major place on this track, turn 2 and turn 3 up the top of the S's. We saw some overtaking potential there, but a very much risky position to put yourself in if the other driver doesn't exactly play ball up there. And then the S's should be a one-line track through there, but, well, honestly, who knows? With a field of drivers that are this closely matched on pace, might have to gamble a little bit there. And then turn 6, 7, a little bit of an option there, but for the most part, that should be places where you're trying to set up for the run down to 10A and 10B for the big braking zone, of course.
Absolutely, and we'll also have to keep an eye out on turn 12, the final corner as well. It is possible to go side by side through there, but man, it is difficult. It is definitely a place you can fire one up the inside if your rival messes up the exit of 10B. And also turn 1, a place where we've seen some attempts at overtakes in Split 2. Largely, I think, though, in Split 1, it's going to be a case of letting a rival go up the inside so you can get them back on the way up to turn 2. And I'm surprised that we only really saw one spin at turn 5, that being Vincent Skilbeck in Split 2. Let's see how many there are here in Split 1. It's a nice long run to turn 1 as well, so that's going to give people plenty of time to try and set up a move, stake their claim for whatever piece of real estate they want on the way into turn 1. But again, you've got to consider if they bog down the start, then that's going to be a lot of pain for them, falling down the order on the way to turn 1. And we also got to remember that the back of the field is starting on the downhill run to turn 11 as well. But we'll get to that when that comes. For now, though, we should take a look at the championship standings coming into this round. Now, last round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, it looked like Jared Filsell was the favourite to take the round win, but a pit stop blunder in the first race, I believe, was what really put him out of contention, and Filsell, as a result, has given up a lot of championship points. This is how they stack up at the moment. Ethan Griggold had a very good result at Mosport and is now only 11 points behind Filsell in the drivers' standings. Madison Down has closed things up as well. He runs in third. The top 3, you could barely put a blanket over them. They are that close, Daniel.
Yeah, despite the number of points available per round, 450 if you're able to get away with a race win or 2 race wins, depending on the format here in the main event. Certainly the fact that we've got, well, not even just the top 3, which are all covered by measly 14 points. That's less than the difference between winning tonight's race and coming in second place. So certainly any one of those 3 drivers win, especially if Grid Gold or Madison Down win, they'll be able to flip themselves into the championship lead tonight at the end of it all. But looking back, even Josh Anderson is barely 30 points back off the lead. Andrew Gilliam there just over 60 points back. And the fact that we get 7 drivers inside 100 points. And the top 10, only 200 points separating them, means that there's a lot to play for here with the number of rounds and points still up for offer. And the fact that, of course, once we get to the end of the season, the lowest 2 scoring rounds of each driver's championship, pardon me, will be deducted from their standings. So if you happen to miss out on a round, since there are plenty of drivers here who do have commitments elsewhere, particularly with a burgeoning real-world motorsport commitments, that will mean that they won't be too disadvantaged here. So certainly some earlier players making their move, and based on the form we're seeing, can start guessing, I should say, some early contenders. But, well, it's V8SCOPS. Never say never would be best at this stage, Reese, given it's not even a quarter of the way into the season.
Yeah, but it's turning into quite an interesting season. I initially thought with Jared Filsell making his full-time return to the series after sitting out most of last year, I thought that he would wipe the floor with everybody, but that hasn't worked out. Filsell's previous dominant performances in the series, with which he won 3 championships, certainly nothing to sneeze at, but things haven't come together for him in the last round or so. But we know Jared Filsell. We know how much of a professional competitor he is and how quick he is. He will undoubtedly be able to get back on top of that very soon. But in terms of pre-qualifying, the results were a little bit surprising. The fact that Richard Hamstead for Trans-Tasman Racing ran the fastest time in pre-qualifying is pretty significant. If you cast your minds back to last year, the last time we visited Road Atlanta, Trans-Tasman were bizarrely off the pace, and Altus Esports were able to take both race wins in a sprint format round here. But TTR have put the hard work in, as they always do, and they've turned things around for themselves. They still look incredibly strong there in the top 10. Currently, though, it is Jared Filsell who is on top in the practice session, with Joshua Anderson just under a 10th behind him in the Trans-Tasman number 36. Ethan Warren joins him up there to make 2 Trans-Tasman cars in the top 3. And Jordan Ross, who we saw is now P7 in the championship standings after a very strong round at Mosport, well, he's in 4th. That Synergy number 143 is looking mighty quick today.
Yeah, definitely plenty of familiar face at the front of the field. And the fact that, we're looking at, the top 8 or 9 drivers, I believe. Let's see, Richard Hamstead. Yes, top 8 within 2/10 of Jared Filsell there. As we bring up the timing tower, you can see they're just under 2 minutes left of practice, folks. And then we're into qualifying. It will be 2 15-minute groups based on their pre-qualifying times here. So we'll give the drivers a chance to spread out, especially given the experience of what happened at the Red Bull Ring. I think for the most part, we'll be seeing this format in qualifying going forward at most of the solo driver venues, just to ensure everyone can get themselves the room they need to set a lap. And given this kind of track is going to be draft heavy, I would suspect as well tonight. And people will want to try and queue up and definitely avoid being the first one off the rank, as it were.
Well, before we get into qualifying, just a little bit of discussion about the pit strategy that we might be seeing here tonight. Of course, it is a 250-kilometre standard round, which means 2 compulsory pit stops, and you must take at least 2 tyres in each stop. You will undoubtedly have to take fuel as well at both of those stops. Madison Down, the reigning series champion, has a data pack on Virtual Racing School that you can check out, and he uploads all of his data and his setups from the official iRacing Supercars Championship. And we're able to glean some figures from that. About 3.25 litres a lap is the fuel usage around here at full tilt. And by my calculations, that gives you 202 litres total. that's required for the race. A tank will last you 34 laps, assuming no fuel saving, which then means that the critical lap is 28. As long as you pit after 28 and fill up the tank, you will be good to go to the end. But the question is, Dan, when do you go for those pit stops?
Well, given the warmer temperatures we're seeing in the session right now, and for reference, it's a 19-degree air temperature still as we approach 4 o'clock in game time, but 32 degrees out on track. So, very curious to see. I think fairly reasonable expectation that most drivers will try and keep the stints, or at least maybe have a plan to keep the stints relatively even, but given, of course, manual safety cars, if need be, expect these drivers to be able to react and respond as they require. There's the end of practice, folks. And now we get ready to see the first part of qualifying underway here. And indeed, our first 21 cars rolling out of the lane and out onto track. Positions 40 up to 21 in pre-qualifying, along with our split 2 race winner, we hope. $1 million questions. He has indeed made it. So fantastic, because it has been a little while since we've seen a split 2 race winner join the field. And unfortunately, in exiting the pit lane and trying to get past some other traffic, Dylan Ron's already banged up the left side of that car.
Oh dear.
Might want to bring that one back in pretty soon here and freshen that one up here.
He's going to have to bring it all the way around the track in order to do that, because the no escape rule is in effect. If you're new to V8SCOPS and to many sim racing competitions in the AusNZ SimSphere, we like to use the no escape rule to just bring a little extra realism into the equation. You can't just pull over to the side of the track, hit escape and tow back to the garage. You have to bring it back to pit lane and stop in your box before you press the escape key. And that changes the way these drivers approach these qualifying sessions. With only 15 minutes in each of these 2 sub-sessions we'll be seeing, the drivers will likely only be able to get, I'd say, 3, maybe 4 runs in of about 3 laps each, one of them being a hot lap. Considering the higher track temperatures, 34 degrees, I reckon only 1 hot lap is going to be the order of the day. If the track was cooler, we might see drivers going for runs of 2 laps, but as it stands, they're only going to have 1 shot at a time in order to get it right.
Yeah, that's probably a good estimation here, but we'll have to wait and see what the drivers have got in store for us as the first group make their way up the hill out of turn number 1 to get their flying laps underway, as we focus in on here the 096 belonging to Hayden Harrison. If I could find him on my time. There he is indeed, down towards the bottom of my list. But indeed, the 096, one of the Type N esports cars, and also resplendent in their Anzac tribute paint job for this week's race. They're here just following in behind Dylan O'Shea there in the 19 car. So these guys all trying to maintain a little bit of a gap, of course. Slipstream is handy around here, but you don't want to be up the rear end of someone because, of course, get too close and you're going to have a hard time if something goes wrong and you need to respond. Plus, you don't want to be getting on the bumper of someone and then they lift out all of a sudden. An easy 0x would be disaster. See the headlight flashing from the 84. Sebastian Flock there at the front of frame momentarily, Reese. But down they come. Purple Sector 1 goes to Chris Coxhead in the 208 for that first group. First times across the line are in the 119s for Michael Taliancic there. 19.341 on the board for him. Eclipsed by Dyson immediately. And Kurt Stenberg first into the 118s as these times start making their way across the line. And Stenberg for now, the only one in the 118s. We'll see how long that lasts.
Indeed we shall, and you would have spied Kenneth Latter off the circuit on the run down to 10A and 10B. Apparently he had some issues on his hot lap and was just letting drivers by, so he had to take to the grass as everyone was coming down to that heavy braking zone. More times coming in. Rick Kuznetsov now on top. Kurt Stenberg is pushed back to 6th place now as times come in from McNamara, Coxhead, Hain and Brian Borg in the 017. Some good times being set here by these guys. 1:18.623 is the fastest time so far. If we want to go to times at the very top of the field in practice, we got to look out for Richard Hamstead, who ran a 1:18.256. He was joined in the 1:18.2s by Jared Filsell. Brett Loxton crosses the line and goes to 12th place. And I've just seen there's been a big incident between Kenneth Latter and Brian Borg. Unfortunate. It looks
Ooh,
like
yep.
Latta was just slowing down through the S's, and Borg went right into the back of him. I think a little bit of miscommunication between those two drivers, so that has messed up the rhythm of their qualifying session. There's Borgie with the big dent in the grille of that Mustang.
Yes, it looks like someone's taken a solid bite out of that nose. As all crinkled and crumpled there at the front of the 017. So, presume to see that car down onto pit lane this time by to fix that up and go again. And, well, with 5 minutes almost burned off the session for this first group, they will have another 10 minutes to get laps done. And, well, so far, 1 lap on the board for most of the guys at the front. And, well, they're now in the lane and getting their cars reset, you would think. But, seeing there, Rick Kuznetsov stopped in the box. So did he reset his car there? He surely would have. Yeah, he did. That was a reset. Just missed it on my end. Apologies. There's some drivers opting to go up on the jacks. Triggers and changing tyres, which triggers my pit time counter here in qualifying for what that's worth, which is about nothing. But does mean that I need to be careful about what I say here when it comes to people changing tyres. Most people, though, will be bringing the car down into the pits, and they'll be able to reset their car once they make it to their box, of course, Reese.
Indeed. Well, we've got another set of drivers here making their way out. Kenneth Latta will be hoping that he is able to get a time in here. He's joined by Dylan Rudd, our Split 2 race winner. And Rudd, it looks like, in no hurry to try and get past Latta here. Might be wanting to try and get a slipstream, potentially. Let's see what happens. Kuznetsov, who's currently P1 in the session, is up ahead of them, setting up for a lap as well. Now, when it comes to... There goes Kuznetsov letting them go. And, oh, here we go. Yeah, Dylan Rudd, he's very intent on trying to get a slipstream off someone, isn't he? Wants to try and improve his qualifying position as much as possible. His spirits will be lifted by that Split 2 win, but he'll have all of the work to do 3 times over and over again. So, coming down into turns 10A and 10B, our Split 2 winner setting up for a hot lap here, and we're going to go on board for a tour around Road Atlanta with Dylan Rudd. Put the power down as quick as you can out of 10A and 10B. Build up as much speed as you can, maybe an ever so slight lift through the final corner, and it's the start of the lap. Coming into turn 1, this turn is so difficult to get right. You've got to go down to 4th gear and try your best to get the front end gripped up, because you're driving practically into a wall there as you make your way up the hill towards turn 2. Blind entry, very difficult to sight, and very easy to cut the inside of that corner as well. Try and ride the curbs as best as you can down through the S's. You got to straight line this sequence as much as possible. Looks like the car is reasonably stable there for Dylan Rudd. Through turn 5, all the way out over the exit curb. The car almost goes airborne over the bumps. Then there's the short straight to turn 6. This is a place that you can pass someone if they mess up turn 5. It's banked, and you're able to carry a lot of speed through it. Then down, slowing all the way down into turn 7. Try and hook up the inside as best as you can and put the power down, because that is the most important acceleration zone on the circuit. Coming down this back stretch towards turn 9, the blend to the right, Latta just lifting off there to let Dylan Rudd go. He's still not happy with his performance on that hot lap, but Dylan Rudd will be happy with this one. He's committing to the end of this lap. Now, don't cut the inside of 10A. There we go, nicely done there from Rudd. He keeps it nice and smooth. Maybe a little bit of a protestation from the car on the way out of the chicane, but coming to the end of the lap then for Dylan Rudd. What is the time going to be? It's a 1:18.56, and he goes right up to second place. Kurt Stenberg managing to run a time good enough to improve on his position. So now the track's really starting to come to these drivers. That was a great lap by Dylan Rudd, though.
So it was, and I think, yeah, no mean feat to put it up in P2, but clearly part of that perhaps following the right kind of driver in the form of Rick Kuznetsov. Unfortunately, well, Kuznetsov, he wasn't able to improve on that last lap, though. We are talking a margin of half a tenth off his personal best in the session, which means, well, still only 6/600ths of a second, pardon me, off of the provisional pole sitter. So not too bad for the 008. And to be sure, as we have a look here at our provisional pole sitter, Stenberg in the number 47, Trans-Tasman Commodore, bringing his car down onto the lane to reset surely again here soon. And, well, nearly 9 minutes gone in qualifying for this group, Reese. Probably getting another 2 runs, maybe, if they can turn it around quickly here for these guys that are on the lane or about to stop in their box. But they will be Actually, that will make that quite doable, because so long as they start their final flying run before the checkered flag is called by the race control team, that shouldn't be too much of a bother. So for these guys coming into the lane now, even they'll be close, but should be good enough here.
Indeed they shall. Well, we've had all 20 of our drivers out there set a time. Actually, no, not all 20. Not all 21 even. Kenneth Latta is still out there. He doesn't have a time on the board. He is coming up to the end of an outlap, though, is Kenneth. So we'll see if he can improve here. There's Kenneth Latta having some dramas here in the early stages of qualifying, and we'll be able to get an idea of what his pace is going to be. His fastest time in practice was a 1:19.174, quite a bit down the order. So we'll see if he can hook this one up. Try his best to keep it within the white lines or the yellow lines sometimes, as is the case here at Road Atlanta if you're running up by the curbs. Looking nice and smooth there in the Synergy JK Signs machine. And wow, it is absolutely gliding over the bump there at the exit of turn 5. Hopefully this turns out to be a good lap here for Kenneth.
A little wider turn 6 though, Reese. That's going to be slightly suboptimal. Gets it gathered back up though. At turn 7, not too bad. Now I'm just wondering here if he's maybe just pushing a bit too hard here. He needs to really get a banker in, which means possibly backing it off, and then he can push later on. But talking to some of the drivers who are taking part in the race tonight, and they were sort of saying that with the hotter temperatures that were seen in pre-qualifying, which was up around nearly in the mid-40s for track temp, ladder that, a little lock of the brakes from the external cams into 10A there, but seems to have it gathered up all right. Little twitch over the top of 11, though, and having to open up turn 12 a lot. Going to bring across the line here. I think that one will count. It will. 119.2, which is good enough for, well, 20th place in the session so far. So not quite what he wants, I would think, but at least it's a number on the board for now, at least.
That it is, and he's managed to run a time just a little faster than Ben Christensen there. Christensen about a 10th off the time that Latta is set. But here we go then. This will be the start of one of the final runs here for these guys. Rick Kuznetsov, who's trying to go for provisional P1 here. He'll have seen that time from Kurt Stenberg. He knows that all he needs to gain is 7/100ths of a second, but oh dear, a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 3. That's compromised his line coming into the S's. He's got Dylan Rudd up there with him too. These guys right up there in terms of pace in this first group of qualifying, but crucially for Rudd, he doesn't have the benefit of a slipstream. Chris Coxhead is just a little too far ahead of him on the track, but Rick Kuznetsov, now that he has a driver in front, might just be able to respond and pip Kurt Stenberg to that first place. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to see indeed. Personal best sector 1 for Kuznetsov was still down though on Stenberg's opening sector. And then sector 2 matching, actually though. And here comes sector 3, fastest sector 3 for Kuznetsov. So that's slipstream and a good run through 6 and 7. That's paid off nicely for him. 2/10 up in that sector alone, Reece. So I think if he nails this final run over the hill, he's certainly in position to make this work, I think. Comes around the final corner here, does Kuznetsov. Oh, no, he slid it out over the grass. No, he did not. He invalidates the lap just when he could have put it together. But speaking of people putting together, McNamara behind Kuznetsov that we were riding on board with puts himself up in a provisional pole by 2/100ths of a second for the 951 car.
Great job, Sean McNamara. He took great advantage there of what would have been a double slipstream from those two cars in front of him. I think Dylan Rudd had that in mind as well. Dylan Rudd, of course, also driving for 95 Sim Sports. So now Kurt Stenberg is going to have to find 2/10 somewhere. Stenny is on an outlap at the moment, and he should be able to get it. Sorry, yeah, 200ths. My apologies. He should be able to get across the line in time to start another lap. He's got the 99 there with him as well. There was an improvement from Brett Loxton in the meantime. He's just gone up to 4th. Sebastian Flock to P5 as things stand in that Pursuit Sim Racing number 84. But here we go then. Let's stick with Stenny and see what he can do to respond to these increases in pace from the 95 Sim Sports crew.
Yeah, well, not much to gain, not much needed to gain, pardon me, from the 47, but here we go through turn 1. Looks pretty good there, keeping it relatively tight on the exit to open the run up to turns 2 and 3 here, Reese. And good curb usage. He's nice and controlled there, and then able to ride most of that curb there and get it back over for the run down the SS. Purple, sector 1 from Stenberg in response. So that is a good opening to the lap up the hill. What can we see here what the run is like, though, here through sector 2, which encompasses that S's run. And following in, that's Darren Lobb, slipstream, another purple sector from Stenberg. So he is responding just the way he needs to. 30 seconds on the clock in the session for these guys. So this is going to be it for the 47. And certainly the tyres won't have anything left in it, given the way he's putting on pace now. So down the back straight we go for the 47, pardon me. And following along in that tow, as he got a purple here for the third sector. We'll come up to that marker in just a moment's time here. The personal best, it's not purple, but that'll certainly be it's an improvement for him all the same. So into 10-18 meters, a car off in the grass. Hopefully that's not a distraction. I don't think so for Stenberg. He brings it up over the hill. Checkered flag is called by the race control team. So he's going to make the final corner stick here. Up over the apex of turn 12 with Stenberg. It's a little bit loose, but that's going to do it. And up to the P1.
Excellent.
Nearly 2/10 clear by the end of it all, Reese.
And Darren Lobb, just ahead of him, managed to run a time good enough for P3, so both of them improving massively on that final run. They might have been helped by the sun going behind a cloud. Less UV hitting the circuit means there's less chance of that rubber slicking up on the racing line. But that was a great lap from Stenberg, I have to say. I barely saw a single hint of oversteer or untoward behaviour from that 47. He's got that thing dialed in perfectly for this Road Atlanta circuit. Well, with the session pretty much done, we're waiting for a few more drivers to cross the line. Any improvements from anybody, we'll have to wait and see, as there's more drivers making their way into the pits. And looks like Ben Christensen is committing to the end of a hot lap here. Let's see if that's an improvement for him. 1:18.9 for Christensen, and he moves up 2 places, puts Michael Talianis and Justin Wallace down as Wayne Burke crosses the line, goes to P3. Excellent job there from Wayne Burke. Rainer Costello also improves to 11th place. So, big surprises out of that session. Dylan Rudd still able to hold on to provisional 5th overall. That time should serve him very well. It might give him a time somewhere smack dab in the midfield, if not the top 10, if the top drivers cannot improve. Well, as the drivers make their way in, and make sure not to mess up the pit entry too much. Good practice for the 2 times they have to do it in the race. Let's check out the results as we go into our little break section between these 2 groups of qualifying. Kurt Stenberg runs the fastest time so far, 1:18.359 for him. It's Sean McNamara, Wayne Burke, Darren Lobb, and Dylan Rudd who round out the top 5. That's a good showing from the 9.5 SimSports crew, also from Synergy Sim Racing and DPR. Brett Loxton gets into 6th, Sebastian Flock 7th. Rick Kuznetsov, he had the fastest time early on, but could not improve, unfortunately invalidating his lap right as he crossed the start-finish line. And Chris Coxhead and Dylan O'Shea are the top 10 times so far. 21 drivers setting times, and we have another 20 coming up very shortly here, Daniel. The safety car will exit the pit lane very shortly, if it hasn't already, and do a little sighting lap just to check that everything is in order.
Yep, indeed. Well, that looks like it's the last of the drivers, indeed, who were out in qualifying 1. Bring it back onto the pit lane. Actually, well, quick thing, actually. Rainer Costello moved himself up to P11 at the end of that, but he also put in the fastest final sector on his final flyer there. So that's an important thing to notice. One other car putting in some good pace, although unfortunately not able to hook together a full lap there to make it work, as the 00 safety car in the hands of Nick Parker there heads out onto the track. And now we get to see the Logistic G safety car in the Virtual Racing School backed safety car here, and do a circuit of the pit lane. And well, I'll not comment too much on the interesting spec map that's there, but I think I know why it's happened. Hopefully we'll have that sorted out for future events. So we'll see Nick Parker go around here and just the Logistic side lap. We're just under 1 minute and 20 seconds now before the second group will get underway. So will be not too long before we see our next group of 20 V8 machines out on track to round out qualifying for the race here tonight.
So, what can we expect from this second half of qualifying? It looked very close at the front in practice between Hampstead, Phil Sell, Myers, Griffin Gardner, Joshua Anderson, Jordan Ross even. I mean, the times are just so close in this series that you can't really separate drivers into groups. They're just so close to each other on one lap pace. So it's all going to come down to the luck of the draw, I think, in terms of weather, in terms of track position, to see if you can get your times in. And the weather is starting to change. I see the sun re-emerging from behind these clouds, so the drivers are going to be greeted with a little bit of a warmer track. Track temp actually dropped quite a bit through the course of the qualifying session. It's now down to 27 degrees Celsius. It's also coming up to 4:30 p.m. in sim time, so it's ever so likely that the track will get cooler as time goes on. Let's see what kind of times these drivers are capable of as the 15-minute mark is reached, and the green flag will fly in just a moment here for the second half of qualifying. And leading the way out of the pit lane is going to be Richie Stanaway, real-life touring car driver who's made a few appearances so far this season. Hasn't quite gotten the results he would have wanted, but maybe the racing gods will smile upon him here tonight at Road Atlanta.
Yes, that will be important to see as the cars make their way out onto circuit. So you see them all keeping relatively bunched up here, of course. That slipstream on their flying laps certainly will be valuable, I dare suggest. But the question is, well, do you stay in the pack? Do you break away here? As Richie Stanaway's been given a bit of a free rein up the front of that train there. As you can see, these guys all bunching up together into turn 6. So they'll have to sort themselves out and all space out here. As, well, it's all getting a bit pedestrian almost, I'd say, race in this group of cars. So who makes the move first? As they all come onto the back straight. Of course, no one wants to be the guy up front giving everyone else a bit of a free drag down the straightaway. But, well, there comes a point where push has to come to shove, and we kind of want to see guys getting the qualifying laps in the way soon. But obviously, yeah, Monza F1 2018, plenty of flashbacks perhaps.
Yeah, to me it's looking a bit like the Mitchell Freeway on a Friday afternoon. That's something for you Perth citizens out there. A couple of drivers looking to make their way forward in that pack, Jared Philsell among them, but up the front, Richie Stanaway begins his first lap, and he will be followed by Josh Thomas in the 151 as we have more drivers now coming across the line. Let's see then, Stanaway should be the first driver to get a time in, but the main pack is led away by Jake Maloney in the Trans-Tasman number 29 Mustang, and driving in the same sort of sub-team with Richard Hampstead. Have a look at this long line of cars here. The reason that they all decided to stick so close together on the outlap was because they know how strong the slipstream is here down the back stretch, how much time that can award you at the end of a lap. Maloney is not going to get any of that benefit. Thomas has just come into turn 7. Maloney exits turn 5. So this is going to be nothing more than a banker, I think, for Jake Maloney, who's struggled to get the results deserving of this talent this season.
Yeah, certainly a mixed bag for several drivers here in the main game, of course. And, well, with the competition, as always here in this series, does mean that you have to bring your absolute best if you want to hook it all up together. And, well, if you stumble and falter or unfortunately get caught up in something else that wasn't your own making, but you're close enough to get caught up in it, well, that's enough to cause you a bit of grief at this stage. Josh Thomas, meanwhile, has brought his car down onto the lane. A small mistake at 10A, 10B for him means he's abandoned that run as we stay on this lovely little static shot as they come over the crest of what is apparently turn 11 and down to turn 12. Another one of the Trans-Tasman cars there from the middle of the train is bringing a car down onto the lane, and that would be, if I could find them, it'll be Brady Myers in the 22 was their man to do it. And here we go, times coming onto the board, and look at that. Wow. Trans-Tasman go 1 and 2, and Stenberg holds on to P4 with his time from the first session. Jared Philsell has been pipped by Ethan Warren and Madison down here, and by a reasonable margin at this stage.
Yeah, those times we're seeing from those TTR cars are faster than they set in practice. The cooler track temps definitely working in their favour here, able to get a little more pace out of them. Jared Filsell at the end of that hot lap, he's going to bring it into the pits at the end of this, I would imagine. So running a time pretty similar to what he ran in practice, but I think you might be a little surprised to see the extra pace that Warren and Down have managed to get out of their cars. Jordan Ross, meanwhile, who's following close behind Jared Filsell, his teammate Adam Briggs there in the front of shot. Ross has not quite been able to get the time in that he wanted, 118.6 for him, and that's only good enough for 20th place so far. He's right in the middle of all the drivers who went out in the first half of qualifying, and he's actually going to stay out here as Filsell comes into the pits ahead of him. Ross committing to another lap here. That's interesting to see. Is it going to be an improvement? No, it doesn't look... Yep. Oh, yes, it is, actually. He gets into the top 10. Good stuff there for Jordan Ross.
Yeah, actually a little wondering there. Perhaps some drivers might gamble on a different setup strategy run here. And so if you've got a setup and the driving style, it means you manage the tyres on the opening lap. It's possible to get 2 laps out of the car. But certainly, yeah, we were expecting the majority of drivers to go out on a single flying lap run, which has been the norm for the most part with these cars. But nevertheless, going to get someone who changes that up from time to time, and it's Jordan Ross who has done so for us tonight. Filsell heads back out on the track here. Reese to set up his second qualifying run there, just ahead of Adam Briggs in the 72. Now, is Briggs on a flying lap? I wouldn't think so. No, did it 18.6 and then stayed out, I think? No, he came in with everyone else. So, no, he's going to follow around this time. Filsell will certainly have more pace in him, I'm sure, but he's either going to have to catch up to Richie Stanaway ahead, which, well, Stanaway's pretty cruisy here, so actually that might be quite easy to do so. So that will give Filsell a bit of a leg up on the actual qualifying lap, presuming they stay in the order that they are, Reese. Very curious to know at the end of it all what the slipstream is worth on a decent lap around here in a qualifying session like this, which is particularly cutthroat amongst all others. So down they go to 10A, 10B, and indeed Filsell has been able to slot in there behind Stanaway as they get ready to prepare their runs, these 3 cars.
All right, 3 together here at the front of the queue. Meanwhile, Marcelo Rivera, who's currently P7 for Evolution Racing Team, is leading the rest of the pack as they cruise on down to 10A and 10B. But on board then with the Ford of Adam Briggs, got Jared Filsell up ahead of him and might be, oh dear, just catches the grass on the exit, on the entry into turn 1, sorry. My goodness, very well held from Briggs, but I think the lap has gone right away. We'll see what Filsell and Stanaway can do. It looks like there's some cars coming out of the pits just up ahead of them. Tom Freer, Jordan Ross up there. So they won't want to run into the backs of those guys. Probably will let them by on the back stretch. So let's see how they go then. Tom Freer and Jordan Ross just up ahead of these guys now. They will pull over, I would presume, and let them go. Yeah, Ross goes over early, so does Freer. So Filsell, he's caught right up to Stanaway. Have a look at him, he's almost on the bumper. Depending on how strong the slipstream is, Filsell might run into some issues here in the braking zone for 10A and 10B. He flashes the lights to let Stanaway know he's coming, and Richie lets him go. Filsell has got the benefit of the slipstream now. All he has to do is negotiate these final couple of corners, and he might have a time that is good enough for provisional pole position. Nice exit from the 3-time champion of this series. And such a huge elevation change down to the final corner. What's this time going to be? 1:17.967. That is provisional pole for Jared Filsell. First driver under 1:18 tonight.
Yeah, personal best in sectors 1 and 4. Fastest sector overall in the second sector there, which is down the S's from turn 2 onwards. And yeah, got a nice bit of slipstream down the back straight as well for good measure, even though it actually wasn't a personal best down there as it turns out, as more times come in. And Richard Hampstead backs up his pre-qualifying time, goes to P2 and less than 800ths off of Filsell's provisional pole time.
It's an improvement from Madison Down as well, making his way up into 4th. Luke Rosella, meanwhile, and the number 55 has managed to put himself into 6th. That's a great time there from Luke Rosella. Now, we have to wait and see what the other drivers are going to do out here. Rosella in the middle of a draft train. That partially explains why he was able to run such a good time. There'll be more times coming across the board here as Jared Filsell gave a slipstream to Jordan Ross on the way into 10A and 10B. We'll have Ross and Freer up to the end of their laps now. Ross, though, I saw that he cut the inside of 10A a bit, and Ross brings it into the pits. So what about Tom Freer then? Will he be able to improve on what is currently 24th? It doesn't look like there was any good time in there for him. Minor improvement to an 18.6. It was a good improvement for Brenton Hobson. Meanwhile, on that run, he's just run a time good enough for 11th place. That's an improvement of, I think, 2 positions there for the 88, a veteran of this series.
Yeah, plenty of shuffling in and around the order, but having a look at the top 5, it's, well, very much dominated by Trans-Tasman. They actually run 2nd through 5th consecutive, and they've got Kent Stenberg there in 7th place, only separated there by Rosella. They're representing the Synergy outfit to be there along with Filsell at the top. And then with Gritgold and Marcelo Rivera almost rounding out the top 10 there with some ERT representation. So we've got ourselves, 3 teams effectively inside the top 10, and well, Synergy knocking on the door 11th and 12th respectively. So very much case of, well, the big players in town so far. Reese making their mark on the qualifying pace as Maloney's just gone across the line.
I think that was an outlap, and he's got cars coming out of the pits alongside him. That might have been distracting as he starts another hot lap here. Let's see if Jake Maloney can improve on lucky 13th position at the moment.
Yeah, here comes Pardon Me. Unfortunately, not a personal best, but the second time looks okay. Oh, very wide out of turn 5 though, and look at the traffic pile he's got to figure out as he comes through here. Oh, this is nothing you want to deal with, and just got to go somewhere, but anywhere really. He's able to get through by turn 7, but hey, there it is.
There we go.
Lights the rears and then some race, and that will be the end of that run.
That will, as all of these drivers here gearing up for a hot lap, coming down to the braking zone. Meanwhile, a couple of other cars, but we check out the 143 of Jordan Ross coming up to start another hot lap. Richie Stanaway has improved massively meanwhile. Remember, he was the first driver to set a time in this second session. He's just gone up to 7th place. Great improvement there, 1 minute 18.343. So Stanaway will be well chuffed with that one as Jordan Ross comes across the line to begin another hot lap. Ross now down in 13th place with that improvement from Stanaway. It'll be critical here for Ross to help out his current 7th place in the championship. He runs a little wide on the way into turn 2 though, and completely overshoots the inside of that corner. Lap abandoned.
Yep, he'll have time to go for one more run. Reset and go again, you would think, unless the car can be salvaged here. But I'm not 100% sure about that, so I would expect, given the time he's got, might as well bring it back in and prepare for one fresh run at the end of this session. As since it is a single race tonight, when the timer hits 0, the session will give drivers the opportunity to complete the lap they are on. So being across the line when the clock strikes 0 is all that matters. You don't have to have the lap done, unlike you would have in such as, for example, we saw in the support series on Friday night race with the heat formats used there. As you see, drivers make their way down the back straight as we jump aboard Hampstead here in the 29. Us peeling out of the way there, and well, down into 10A we come with 10B immediately afterwards. Looks all right there. Is this going to be in front of hands? I don't think so. Not seeing any personal bests this time around. So across the line he comes, and it's going to be an 18.27. So indeed, a bit off his ultimate pace so far in the session. Anderson behind.
For Griffin Gardner and Brady Myers. Meanwhile, Myers goes to 4th, Gardner to 7th.
Indeed.
Good stuff there.
Joshua Anderson had a small improvement, but unable to make up positions there. But to an 18.139 for the 36 car. So times are tightening up here. These guys all have just enough time. Sorry, no, they won't. My apologies. They will all, as their qualifying session's all done here, because by the time they get back to the pits, they won't have the time to get back around and get out again. So this is it for most of these guys. It's down, mind you, despite being on an in-lap, but No, apologies. That was a personal best last time around for him as Tom Freer brings it in. So he'll be one of the first to end his session there. Question is there anyone on a flying lap right now? Got the 88 of Brenton Hobson has just started the run. In behind him is one of the Evolution Racing Team cars of Ian Ford and Marcello Rivera. So I think these are our three guys, well, three of our guys here who will be last to start a lap. Joshua Thomas has got one. He's starting now, although did he just push that a little wide at turn 1, I wonder? We'll have to see as we jump on board. What was this indeed? Hobson in the 88? Or
This is Rivera.
Pardon me.
No, Ian Ford, who's Rivera. It's Rivera, Marcelo Rivera, who
They're
is
all at
towing.
Holdens.
Yeah, so difficult to tell them apart. Rivera trying his best here to pick up a draft from Hobson and trying his best to give a draft to his teammate Ian Ford. It's been a good performance here for the Evolution Racing Team guys. They hold on to positions in the midfield, but Ian Ford is the one who will be most benefited by an improvement. Ford's down in 23rd place at the moment. Gridgold and Rivera are in 11th and 12th. So coming into the last section of the lap, Rivera looked like he cut the inside of 10A a bit too much. So this might not be a valid lap for him. The checkered flag flies though, and he will commit to the end of the lap. We'll see if that's valid there for Marcelo Rivera. It is not, but what about Ian Ford? Will he be able to do it? No, in the lane for him.
So that leaves only a handful of drivers out there. Corey McFarlane in the 094 might be on a lap here. No. Actually, he might be because the last lap was a 125. One was thinking about, no, he's on the brakes going down the backstretch. The 094 is done with qualifying. Phil Sellers out on track. He set a personal best sector 1, but it could be on a lap here, but we'll see as it comes across the line. I'm not 100% certain on it.
Oh, improvement.
Oh, he was, and he goes faster.
Down to a 117.8, so consolidating his pole position there in the dying moments of the session. Fantastic stuff there from Jared Filsell. So let's review just what went on in that session. It was largely defined by traffic. There were quite a few drivers in the middle of the session who would have improved on their times, likely were it not for the sheer amounts of traffic out there. Everyone just trying to stick together because they know how strong the slipstream is here.
Well, pardon me, Reese, but indeed that is a very important facet of the racing, well, the qualifying speed, I should say, around here. And, well, that will play a part in the racing too in just a moment's time. But obviously in racing conditions, it's a little bit different as, well, hopefully people will be keeping them bunched up for the most part. But, well, knowing the racing here, it could easily fan out and, well, pit strategies and potential incidents. As meanwhile, Phil sort of end the session, went on the massive high side through turn 7. Got the car properly up about 40 degrees diagonal there, so some solid curb usage. But we'll get to that another time here, as we've got 3 minutes to run through the grid. So how about we do so, Reese, and start off with that top 6.
Indeed.
And, leave it with you.
Yes, indeed. Jared Filsell is going to start on pole position there, taking it by just over 2/10 from Richard Hamstead. It's a TTR party here in the top 6 with Ethan Warren, Brady Myers, Madison Down, and Josh Anderson in the Cool Drive livery number 36, starting in 6th place. Griffin Gardner in car 93 is going to start alongside Luke Rosella for Synergy Sim Racing. Very good performance there for Luke. Richie Stanaway with that mid-session improvement is going to work out very nicely, starting alongside Kurt Stenberg, who set the fastest time in the first group of qualifying. And the top 12 rounded out by the ERT duo of Ethan Griggold and Marcelo Rivera.
And then after ERT, Synergy Sim Racing locks out row number 7 with Brenton Hobson and Jordan Ross, respectively. And that's going to be Jake Maloney out of P15 with Sean McNamara alongside him for 16th place. Corey McFarlane will be joined by Wayne Burke on the 9th row there. And then it's going to be Wayne Burke and Darren Lobb, apparently, out of 19th and 20th. No, my apologies. It was McFarlane and Burke out of 17th and 18th. I literally said that. Darren Lobb joined by Lee Ellis, my apologies, for 19th and 20th. Dylan Rudd, our split 2 race winner, puts himself in a decent 21st position there, with Brett Loxton to be alongside him for 22nd, and then Ian Ford and Adam Briggs make up the first 12 rows of this grid tonight.
Starting outside of 25th will be Sebastian Flock, joined by Rick Kuznetsov, and Tom Freer and Chris Coxhead, 27th and 28th. The top 30 are rounded out by Dylan O'Shea and Raina Costello, another member of the Evolution Racing Team crew. Andrew Dyson puts his DPR machine in 31st, starting alongside Premier Racing Team's Brian Borg. Blake Warboys starts out at 33rd, with Hayden Harrison 34th. Todd Hayne and Matthew Bowler will start on the 18th row of the grid, with Ben Christensen, Michael Taliancic, Justin Wallace, Josh Thomas, and Kenneth Latter rounding out our field. Simon Black, Simon Mazzomo, Nick Parker, and Michael Korolev are going to be in race control here tonight. And Nick Parker will be out there driving the Logitech G safety car just in case there's a big enough incident out on track to warrant its appearance. And you'll already see just how much the field stretches around the final turn here at Road Atlanta. Look at that in the background. There's drivers starting almost all the way back to the bridge through turn 11, so they'll probably get a good jump off the start with that downhill run, but they're going to have to navigate a turn on their way through. And we all know what these cars are like when they're trying to put the power down through a turn. 600 plus horsepower and a lock differential plus 1.5 tons of weight is certainly not your friend in certain situations. Well, the timer hits 0 and the revs rise. We're going to get going for the Road Atlanta 250 presented by Too Easy Finance. Round 4 of V8SCOPS 2022 is go, and that's a great start. Good jump from Phil Sell. Unfortunately, Ethan Warren didn't get the jump he wanted. Madison Down almost gets onto the grass as the TTR cars are 3 wide on the way into turn 1. Reasonably clean start from everyone else in the field, but then we get to turn 1. That's the big choke point. Phil Sell leads out of turn 1. Hampstead second, Myers in third as they make their way to turn 3 for the first time. Anderson defends from Griffin Gardner, and it looks like Hampstead and Phil Sell already starting to break away from the rest of the field here as there's a bit of 2 wide running. Have a look at Richie Stanaway really getting his elbows out with Griffin Gardner as there's a car off the circuit, and that's a Synergy machine. It's Wayne Burke, and everyone manages to avoid him.
Yeah, I think I saw someone loose. Brett Loxton in the 209 gets loose off turn 5. I was just going to say, I think I saw a bit of a hip check through the S's. That's what sent that Synergy car, of course, 3 wide into turn 7 with Kuznetsov going up the inside. Oh, wow, look at them all scrabbling for position here. 2-3 wide. One of the DPR cars, O'Shea, fired off course into the inside fence. I think he got away with that one there, Reese, but we'll have to see if he gets back up to speed here as the back of the field continues to hustle their way down the straightaway. Got Brian Borg he's got Matt Bowler directly behind, along with one of the Type N Esports cars, 994, where are you? 3 wide again on the exit of 10B. Just trying to make sense of it's just, thankfully, cleaner than lap 1 in splits. Bowler's loose at the final corner. Keeps a grip of it somehow there, but oh boy, it's a kind of, Code Brown moment there for the number 6 car at the back of the field, but here's the top of the field. 2 wide once again, and Ken Latta, he's off at turn 1. Meanwhile, there's 2 wide. They're just, there's maximum commitment already here on lap 2 of 62 races. Oh boy.
Goodness, Brett Loxton coming together slightly with Adam Briggs there, but they managed to keep it going, moving forward. Is it bad if I say that that's one of the cleanest first laps I've ever seen at SCOPS and Road Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Not really. It does mean the bar's a little bit low, perhaps.
Maybe. But taking nothing away from the drivers here, it's actually been pretty good racing aside from a few minor incidents in the middle of the field. And we're only 2 laps in. They've still got plenty of time to stretch themselves out here. Move for 7th, meanwhile. That's Griffin Gardner getting back by Richie Stanaway. Dylan Rudd and Darren Lobb change places as well. Rudd's up to 18th now and up 3 places. He's already making his way forward. But the biggest mover in the field so far looks to be Joshua Thomas. He's up in 31st now, up 9 places. So definitely making short work of that. Brady Myers sets the fastest lap to this point, 118.575, but that's only 5 thousandths faster than Phil Sellers. That's looking dramatic into turn 1. Take it easy, guys. Goodness gracious. They just managed to make their way through. That's for the midfield. It's the likes of Brian Borg, Todd Hayne, Tom Freer, Hayden Harrison, all here. And the 151 of Josh Thomas leading them there in 30th position now. Thomas is up 10 places. Brilliant moves being done there by the 151 machine.
Yep, certainly having to pick his way through from the back. And, well, if there's one way to do it, that's in style there indeed. Well, they've mostly calmed down, Reese. I say mostly because, well, every now and again someone pulls out, makes a pass at a especially audacious position, particularly the S's. But, well, we'll worry about that another time as we go on board with the 177 of Ethan Grigg-Galt, looking at the back of Richie Stanaway's car and eyeing off a move potentially here as we've got more too wide down into 10A, 10B further on back. It's Brett Loxton going at it with Ian Ford, and Loxton comes out ahead, but Ford's had a bad run off the corner. Coxhead's thinking about the inside. Nothing of it this time by as they come down the hill, so back in a single file. Good, that's the kind of sensible thinking we like to see, but Coxhead pulls back to the inside and then disappears for good measure, but up the inside at turn 1 on Ian Ford. Andrew Dyson wants to go through as well. Ian's aware to it, gives the space, and indeed Dyson gets around Ian Ford, so Ford will slot in ahead of his teammate Rainer Costello. That's now 2 spots lost in a short moment there for Ian Ford, and down 5 from his starting spot, Reese, but, well, car's still clean, and that's fairly important as well.
You mentioned Andrew Dyson. Well, if you cast your mind back to this spot here on lap 1, coming out of turn 7, Dylan O'Shea was fired off the racetrack. That was due to Andrew Dyson moving into him, and Dyson has been given the first black flag of this race for that contact. So within the next 3 laps, he's going to have to bring that in. Slipstream, though, for the Synergy machine of Wayne Burke. These guys have got Rick Kuznetsov for company. That's Lee Ellis for Trans-Tasman in front of him. They're going to go 3 wide in the braking zone for 10A. Ellis in the middle. Burke decides to think better of it and leave Ellis to try and get past Kuznetsov, but Rick is doing very well at the moment, up 6 places from where he started. It's quite the gap forward to Darren Lobb, though, in 19th place. Kuznetsov made the move on Lee Ellis on that lap, so it's going to be a battle here for Ellis to try to get back by Kuznetsov. But these guys are bringing in some company. Adam Briggs up 1 place from where he started. Now he's right on the back of this battle as Ellis taps a little bit of Morse code into the back of Kuznetsov's car. Certainly wasting no time trying to assert his position here.
Yes, indeed. Wants to get back at it. And certainly that's one of the best ways to do it over the curve at turn 5, though. Doesn't quite have a good run there in comparison, and I think that gives Kuznetsov just the breather he would want down into turns 6 and 7, though. Conversely, that also gives Ellis the space to close back into under draft as we have this lovely little static curb cam shot on the exit of turn 6. You can see here who's willing to run it up on the curb aggressively. Just trying to just give himself a little bit of a breather there. A couple of different lines there for those guys as back towards Ellis and Burke. This time, though, Burke has had a good run off turn 7. Up the outside, it's going to have to be at 10A. He's got a nose ahead, and Ellis actually tucks back in, so actually gives that spot up without much drama there. Does the 18, so there's some change once again in this mid-pack fight. Just outside the top 20 at this stage.
Well, that battling's allowed Kuznetsov to get away from these guys a little bit. He can start to pick up a draft from Darren Lobb and try to work his way forward. Loads of drivers in the field still very close here, but crucially, as we check up the front, Phil Selt is starting to check out here over Richard Hamstead. Phil Selt ran the fastest, well, his fastest lap of the previous lap. The quickest lap of the race still belongs to Brady Myers, who's running in 3rd. Josh Anderson has managed to stick with his compatriots here. Ethan Warren with that slight mistiming of releasing the clutch pedal on the restart has cost him those 2 positions to his teammates Myers and Down. There's the rest of the battling through the field. Most of the drivers in single file at the moment. Not many huge moves being made now, but there could be one coming up for Adam Briggs and Lee Ellis. They're running side by side on the way down the back stretch. And Ellis is going to go defensive here into 10A. Is Briggsy brave on the brakes? Oh, they're about even, but will Briggs be able to hold the outside? He will almost, but Ellis slots in front of him before 10B. Very nice, close and hard, but clean battle going on between those two.
Indeed, it is, and well, does mean that Briggs will have to line up another one, try and get the move to stick next time by at least. But, well, had some speed off the corner, but Ellis looks like he had a decent enough top end there to stay alongside and then also commit under brakes to hold the spot. So we'll need a bit of a more ambitious move from Briggs. Although see them here through the S's. Ellis has had a bit of a rough run off turn 3 there, Reese. Just, there was half a car length or so between them, but Briggs has been able to eat that gap up completely now. But again, off of turn 5. This time Ellis slightly better than Briggs. So, bit of back and forth here, as you might expect, perhaps, from, well, drivers at this level. As just looking ahead of these two guys to the next group of cars up the line. It's Wayne Burke and Rick Kuznetsov. They've caught Darren Lobb quite quickly all of a sudden. So, I would be wondering if we're going to see a potential move here for that 19th spot as we jump on board with Kuznetsov in that 008. And look at that good straight line speed he's got over the 99 ahead. Looks to the inside and Lobb's on the brakes early, so that's a fairly done deal there for Kuznetsov. Indeed, yes. Job done. And there we go. While we're looking at that battle just ahead, Wayne Burke gets a job done on Lee Ellis for position number 22. Pardon me, Adam Briggs. Wayne Burke is up the road and going after Darren Lobb now for P20.
Indeed, and dives up the inside of turn 1, actually, right as we cut to it. Lobb has to go wide, and he actually catches a little of the grass on the exit. So Briggsy and Ellis, they're going to have to keep their eyes out here. Lobb might be a little bit off kilter here, having lost those positions. That would have messed up the rhythm of the driver of the number 99. Let's see if they can make their way past him on the back stretch, as it seems Jared Filsell starting to come under some pressure from Richard Hamstead here. Running a little bit faster on the last lap, so Hamstead's still within a second. He'll still be picking up a slipstream here from Jared, but keep an eye on Brady Myers and Madison down behind. How long will they want to be sat behind Richard Hamstead if he can't make up the gap? Myers is going to stay behind Hamstead for the time being, and it seems that Madison Down is fuel saving a little bit there in the draft. He's wanting to try and cut down his pit stop times as Jordan Ross off the screen makes his way past Kurt Stenberg, and Corey McFarlane and Sean McNamara trade positions a few times. Actually looks like McNamara's lost out and Dylan Rudd has moved into 17th, but Madison Down chasing down his compatriots here for a podium position. I think it's a wise decision to just let off the throttle a little bit, do a bit of fuel saving on your way through, because when pit stop time comes around, that will be less fuel that you're going to have to put into the car.
Yep, that will be important indeed. And, well, given it's a 2 compulsory stop race, despite the fact that the cars can make it on one stop when it comes to refueling, that will obviously play a part as we look back again at that battle around that 20th position or thereabouts. And, well, now it's Lee Ellis' turn to have a go at the back end of Darren Lobb and try and get the job done before Adam Briggs can break away. And, well, gap between them currently around 3/4 of a second, ahead. Just under half a second behind. Sebastian Flock also has caught up to Ellis now. So can the 84 machine set up a move on the 18 here? Down the straight they come. They're all in the slipstream, of course, so unlikely from this distance. And yet there's it rolls out of the ever so slightly. Not a huge amount of fuel saving as a result, but every little bit will be useful here as they make their way out of the 10A-10B chicane one more time, Reese. And single file from this group for now.
For now, but once the pit stop flurry starts, there's going to be a lot of trading of positions here. Look at this group that's fighting here. Darren Lobb, Lee Ellis still trying to find his way past, and on the way into turn 1, that's Blake Warboys, who's managed to keep a nice gap over the... Oh dear, that's a problem there for Sean McNamara. He was doing quite well making up positions, but very unfortunate to have an off in turn 3, but that's a very easy place to make a mistake in any car at Road Atlanta, let alone an Australian touring car. Let's get another view then, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. And coming into this corner, he actually got hit from behind. Oh, that was one of the Synergy cars.
And the likely Synergy car... Actually, I can't quite figure it out unless the order's been shuffled. No, that's... It's up the hill again behind Rick Kuznetsov, 89 of Wayne Burke, I believe, as they come up the hill into turn 2. And yeah, just absolutely fed on the approach to turn 2 there. Bit of a 50-50 in terms of whether the move was on, but McNamara turns in a bit there as well. And well, I have a feeling race control won't be too impressed by what happened there as we go back to live pictures, I believe.
Yes. Well, the battling is going to continue.
Yes.
Kuznetsov, Burke and Rudd now in that fight as Lee Ellis is still having trouble finding his way past Darren Lobb here. Adam Briggs is just getting away from him. And we saw how evenly matched Briggs and Ellis were when they were battling each other. Now there's a train forming behind Darren Lobb. Not only does he have to deal with Lee Ellis, he's also got Sebastian Flock, Chris Coxhead, Ian Ford and Sean McNamara behind him, and the battling pair of Brett Loxton and Josh Thomas for 27th and 28th. But Ellis is just not getting the exits he needs to try and pull a move here on Lobb. And for the past couple of laps, Lobb has had a good run on Adam Briggs, as looks like Madison Down almost pulling a move here on Brady Myers. Myers has actually dropped off the back of Hampstead slightly. Interesting, that.
Yeah, well, I guess the easiest way for someone to be able to catch the guy ahead is to release the pressure a fraction, but it doesn't mean these guys are all lined up nose to tail with basically nothing in it. And, well, Trans-Tasman 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Since you certainly count Josh Anderson amongst the team there, despite the Cool Drive Racing livery aboard the car for the remainder of the season. And you see here through the S's they go. Meanwhile, yeah, looking back up towards the front of that group there, Hampstead is being dropped a little bit through some parts of the track. The other parts he's getting it back a little bit with the slipstream race. So it's very even all the same at the front of the field, and holding at 1 second the gap between first and second for this part of the race now. Hampstead was just inside a second at some points, but you can see here it looks like Phil Sell sacrificing a little bit of mid-corner speed to ensure the exit is as clean as possible. But Hampstead is just on that cusp of the slipstream, as you mentioned a couple of laps ago, and it's just giving him the tiniest amount of advantage in a straight line, even at this distance here.
And I can confirm that it was a mistake from Brady Myers that put him a bit further back. Ended up catching the grass on the entry into turn 7 after Hampstead went a little wide in turn 6. So I think a little bit of follow the leader sort of stuff. But Richard Hampstead still managing to keep himself within good grounds here of Jared Filsell. But as things stand, on pace alone, it doesn't look like Hampstead has what it takes to catch up to and pass Filsell for the lead, so you might have to start relying on a potential tyre undercut in order to get past Filsell here. And we mentioned last round at Mosport that at a hotter track, the undercut can be stronger. Well, the track temperature's gone back up by a degree. It's at 28 Celsius now.
Yeah, stabilising at the moment, and Madison's just a bit of a shocker off of turn 5 here. Ethan Warren behind. Yeah, teammates, they're not going to fight each other at this stage of the race. At least they'll be willing to cooperate, even though, if I remember correctly, I've certainly heard these guys say there aren't any team orders at Trans-Tasman, and they'll race each other. And certainly I've seen enough evidence that these guys will race each other when it comes down to it. But at this stage, all for one, rather than he remain to himself for now. So certainly these guys are willing to play the long game. You can see that lifting out of the throttle was the 59 of Ethan Warren. And is that Brady Myers a little loose again through 10A? I think he was a bit wide of the ideal line. That's not going to help his ability to keep on the back of Hampstead. And generally speaking, it's all about keeping Phil so ahead honest by having the group of cars that could all possibly play the strategy game with him there.
Indeed. Looks like Hampstead has made up a little more time on Phil Sell there at the end of the lap. The gap is going up just slightly as they go through this opening sequence of turns, but it looks like Hampstead's starting to respond very well to Phil Sell's pace, and Phil Sell has probably driven his tyres a little bit beyond the brink. These tyres can last a while in these cars if you look after them, but 14 laps into a 62-lap race at the pace that these guys are doing will certainly take a lot out of the rubber. No changes for position between any of these Trans-Tasman drivers. A quartet here from 3rd to 6th, with Richard Hampstead classified just outside this battle group. It looks like we've got some black flags coming in meanwhile. Looks like Brian Borg getting a penalty for an incident on lap 9, and Wayne Burke for the incident on lap 10 that took the 9.5 SimSport car off the track.
Yeah, I think that one was a fairly textbook case in the end of it all. And, well, looks like there's not going to be too much drama as we have a look back at a couple of guys fighting here, Brenton Hobson and Kurt Stenberg. But more importantly to that conversation is Marcello Rivera having a go at Stenberg.
Whoa.
Over-under from the 21 there is mostly got the job done before turn 12. And, yes, then he does slot in behind eventually there in the 47. Although, a little flash of the headlights from that 47 car, maybe not too happy about that one there. It means that next up to have a go at Stenberg, if that's possibly a sign that the 47's dropping a little bit here in terms of its longer stint pace. It'll be the online 4 of Corey McFarlane. As we continue to watch these guys make their way down the S's, and Kuznetsov still ahead of Wayne Burke, but of course Wayne Burke, we will have to see him peel into the pit lane soon enough to serve that penalty from the race control team. And yeah, just a comment on lap times last lap around. Now, obviously Stenberg came under attack there from Marcello Rivera, but it was also potentially on the attack with Brenton Hobson. Lost almost a second on that last particular lap, as it so happened.
Well, things not going too well for Kurt Stenberg at the moment, but he's still holding on to a solid midfield position as we ride on board, coming down the back stretch here with Sebastian Flock. He's almost getting pushed from behind by Chris Coxhead. Ian Ford's just behind them and looking to try and make up positions, and it looks like Flock's going to defend that position there from the machine of Coxhead, driving for ANZ Motorsports, as Lee Ellis, just up ahead of them, decides he's going to be one of the first drivers to jump into the pits. In fact, Wayne Burke jumping into the pits to serve his penalty, but Ellis is going to be the first one to take regular service there. We did see him dropping down the order. Obviously his tyres had given their best for him and he was starting to drop places, so might as well jump in and get that service done. At least 2 tyres. You would expect that they'd take all 4 in circumstances like this with the 250k race format. Not much use in going for either fronts or rears. So let's see how long the stop is for Ellis. Obviously he has to take fuel here as well. Started quite a ways back in the field, but 22-second box time, that's going to be our benchmark here.
Yes, well, it's actually not the first car down onto the lane race. That actually goes to the 707 of Tom Freer last time around, but
apologies.
Yeah, a little similar on the pit time. Tom Freer, though, actually 2 seconds faster in the stationary component, though, so have to see how that goes. Brian Borg in the 017 slots out ahead of Ellis for a moment at least, but, well, given fresh tyres on board, the 18 should be able to make fairly easy work of the Racecraft Mustang there. In fact, whoa, half a moment there from Borg off turn 5. I thought for a second destination fence was the answer we were going to get there for Borg, but for his case there, thankfully, straightens that car back out with the track surface and keeps on going. But, well, free place there for Ellis. I'm sure he won't complain too much unless Borg has a go down the straightaway here again as we look back up to Josh Thomas in the 151, who's continuing to advance forward. 24th place currently for him, and the next target for him is Ian Ford in that 115 car.
Yeah, Ian Ford running in the position he started now, 23rd place. And looking okay here in this battle. His pace looks consistent with Flock and Coxhead up ahead of him. But just behind him, we've got the biggest mover in the field, Joshua Thomas. He's up 16 places now. Thomas, obviously qualifying, was not the true showing of this car's pace. He seems really comfortable here in race conditions.
That he does indeed, and well, yeah. While certainly qualifying is important for setting yourself up, having a good race car and a good race pace is just as important here, but yeah, obviously a bit disadvantaged where he's standing at the moment. So we'll see what he can do. Another driver down on pit lane. Madison down, brings it out of the top 5. So that's the first driver from the front of the field to make a pit stop commitment here at the end of lap 17 race. So comes a response from one of our front running drivers. Question is, how long do the guys around him there at the front wait before they now come in?
It's a little under a third of the race completed as Madison jumps into the lane, and Looking like a pretty good pit stop time there, 21.4 seconds, and he'll come out in 36th in some nice clear air. Well, probably the fuel saving that he did behind his compatriots at Trans-Tasman early on will benefit him towards the latter stages of this race. Probably just looking to go, looking to try and shorten that final pit stop potentially. We'll have to wait and see how long he decides to go here on this lap. Does seem like it's reasonable that time. It's smack dab in between the times that we saw from Lee Ellis and Tom Freer. So I wonder if Down's going to try and stretch this one out.
Well, 21 seconds stationary in the box. You'd think fuel was partly the reason for that lengthy one there. So I think it's more a case of giving options there in terms of playing the strategy card. If they're willing to go 17, 18 laps here in the opening stint, or even less for some people, probably looking at something in the order of trying to make a lengthy middle phase here, you'd think. Then again, get to lap 28, you know you're home safe on fuel. And, well, safety cars potentially later in the race, although clearly so far clean enough that we haven't had to need any kind of intervention, which is always a good sign, but does mean that the strategy question is still a bit nebulous for the time being.
Well, here's Josh Thomas still trying to make his way past Ian Ford, and Ian's gone a bit deep there into turn 6. Thomas sees the door open on the inside and tries his best to put the power down out of turn 7, but not going to work out for him that time, and that's brought Brett Loxton into this conversation. That's not the best of exits from Josh Thomas. They've also got Sean McNamara and Blake Warboys behind them too. McNamara trying to recover from that incident earlier where he was hit off the circuit by Wayne Burke. Another driver in the pits as there's no change for position between these guys. Griffin Gardner has brought it in from the top 10 as well. And Gardner was a little bit off the fight between Down, Warren, Myers and Anderson for those top 3 positions. Let's see where he comes out relative to the reigning champion.
Yes, that will be interesting to see. But, well, yeah, given he started, he was running behind Down. And, well, an extra lap, that might make a bit more difference again, given the way, again, the car works. Indeed, Down is already passed as Gardner is yet to exit the lane and just gets off the limiter now. So it's back to 35th for the 93 machine of Gardner here. And Down now up to 33rd, but Madison has quite a bit of traffic here. They're all trying to do their own race, so had a lap and a half, 2 laps of clean air now, but the question is, can the number 1 get through what lies ahead without too much fuss? It's back towards the front. Now, that's Ethan Warren, who's tucked in behind Josh Anderson there. So, shuffling amongst the Trans-Tasman crew in this phase of the race now, Reese.
Well, we'll get a quick replay on that one to see how it was done by Josh Anderson. I would suspect it was into 10A and 10B, and it was a very good slipstream from the Cool Drive Mustang. Dives up the inside, and not much of a fight put up there from Ethan Warren. Knew that Anderson was going to have the pace, and can certainly repass him later on down the line if things work out between them. So that's how it was done there for the number 36 as we go back to live pictures. And I tell you what, there's a little bit of a change potentially incoming for the top 3. Brady Myers has gotten some pace back, and he is right on the back of Richard Hamstead. Hamstead now back outside the 1 second range with Jared Philsell's lead. And it's coming up to pit stop time, so we'll have to wait and see what these guys do. We've got more cars in the lane. Sean McNamara, Chris Coxhead and Todd Hain. And they're going to fall outside the top 30 as a result. Lee Ellis slots in ahead of them all. But Myers in the back of Hamstead here. No pit stops coming, but they are starting to come up on lapped traffic. Hayden Harrison in 40th place. Harrison has already made his pit stop, you have to remember. So every chance here that once Philsell comes up on these guys and has to start negotiating them, he might be forced into going into the lane at the end of this lap.
Yeah, this would seem like a good time. As speaking of traffic, Todd Hain just came out of the pit lane. and has absolutely balked Ethan Warren at turn 2. So, yeah, this is now the crucial thing. Is you see that 994, there it is, in the midst of this lead pack of cars, and he's going to jump out of the brakes. There you go. Todd Hayne gets out of the way there for the most part. So, able to sort that one out without too much fuss. There's more cars onto the lane this time by. As you see here, watch this. 904 is there just doing its thing, coming out of the lane and doing what I think is reasonably acceptable in the sense that rather than do something a bit mysterious and break up there at the top of the hill, he did it on the exit of turn 5 there, Reece. So lost a bit of time, did Ethan Warren. In fact, that's almost outside slipstream of teammate Josh Anderson, 8.5 tenths. So going to have to work back into that gap here. But do we have any takers from the front of the field?
No. Phil Sell, Hamstead and Myers all avoiding the pit lane once again. So they're trying to stretch this out. Looks like Phil Sell hasn't been able to quite catch up to Hayden Harrison yet, so he can afford to stay out there, and he still holds on to a 9/10 of a second gap from Richard Hamstead. And oh, there's going to be a bit of traffic deciding this as well, because Matthew Bowler's just come out of the pit lane, and Brady Myers has been forced to back out of it. So now he's lost touch with Richard Hamstead.
Well, this is the risk you take as the race leaders. Obviously, now these guys here with the blue flags, they're going to have to decide how they action this one. As you can see there, Mike Teliantich in the back of shot. Oh, Ethan Warren feels like he must be thinking he's a real rough end of it stick there. If he's had not only Adam Hayne come through the lane, and Todd Hayne there come out of the lane and be a minor inconvenience. He's now had Mike T there come out of the lane and be a minor inconvenience too. So trying to just close the gap back up to Anderson and get back to what they were doing earlier, and blocked once again now. You can see there, Matt Bowler being chased by both Brady Myers and Josh Anderson now. Come down to 10A, 10B. Hasn't gotten out of the way yet. Now, we can wondering here, he will need to observe the blue flags sooner rather than later. But over the crest they come, and no sign of any action from these guys here against them. They're all continuing to stay out. Where is Mr. Madison down, and what's his pace like at the moment?
Well, as you find your way to that, I'm noticing a couple of other changes for position back in the field as we find Madison down now. Down is still a fair ways down the field, but he's in 18th place. He's the leader of the cars that are pitted. Adam Briggs is going to bring it into the pit lane up ahead of him. So have a look at those times there. Jared Philsell's still running 119.5s, but Madison down, having to pick his way through those other cars, not quite able to match his pace. So this might not have worked out for Down. He might have to be relying on a safety car now if he wants to try and pull a move for the podium.
Well, there's the refresh I was hoping to see, to be honest, there, Reece, because that's a more accurate comparison. They're lap 23 versus 23, if I'm not mistaken. And so you can see they're Down actually with clean air. Is fractionally faster, but only a 10th, which, given that he's on fresh tyres, is quite surprising. Now, obviously, he has filled up with some fuel as well for good measure. Now, that kind of balances out. It might seem to be balancing out things here. So the question is now, Down has clean air to the tune of 5 seconds to the next car up the road for position, which is Wayne Burke. So what can he do now with the open road ahead? Looking back at the race leaders, they've stayed out again. So they're going to run this tank dry, it would seem, based on all of this. The top 6, well, the top 10. They'll all go all through turn 1 now. So no pressure at all, it would seem, from Phil Sell at the lead of the field to make his way around the guys ahead. In fact, to be honest, it looks like at this stage here, with the guys ahead on fresh tyres, they're lapping just fast enough here that they're not hindering Phil Sell. And well, that just means that maybe Phil Sell's getting a fraction of fuel save. Just a bit of slipstream advantage down these straightaways here as we're on board now with Anderson there in the 36 Cool Drive Trans-Tasman Mustang. You see, I think now wondering about whether it's his turn to start trying to close the gap and pressure up to his teammates in the form of Hamstead, but Myers is the first one in the queue here.
Well, backing off is Josh Anderson doing the fuel save. Now that everyone's in this lapped traffic, they're thinking, well, maybe it's a good idea to just extend. Not for Richard Hamstead, though. He's just jumped into the pit lane entry. and away he goes. So this is big. We'll see if Jared Filsell responds to this.
You'd think he might, as more traffic comes out in front of... Oh, goodness me. So who is that who's just jumped out in front of the pit? One of these Synergy Sim Racing cars. Wayne Burke has come down the lane and come out in front of the traffic that is ahead of Jared Filsell. So I think now this might just force Filsell's hand, because that's 3 lap cars all in line now. And make that two. Thankfully.
Well held by Hayden Harrison.
The 096 Harrison there indeed. Big moment, almost like what we saw with Brian Borg earlier. But once again, thankfully, destination fence avoided. And ooh, a little loose there. But watch the exit there, Hampstead. Oh. That was gambling with the boundary marker there on the right side of the screen there. But looks like he's gotten away with it, folks. So he can press on, and that's important to look at there. Madison down 1 second behind, despite pitting that much earlier here.
Well, there we go. That's how things work out for Madison down.
Filsell staying out.
Okay. Continuing to try and stretch this first stint of the race out as much as he can.
Myers and Warren in.
Okay, so this is the plan, it seems, for the majority of the Trans-Tasman crew. Anderson has still stayed out, though. He moves up into second behind Filsell. We'll see what kind of pit stop times these guys can get. Richard Hampstead, his stop time was 20.5 seconds. It's 1.1 or 0.9 faster, as that's the box missed there for Ethan Warren. That's going to cost him an extra few tenths, or probably up to a second in terms of stop time. So we'll see how that works out for him. He's probably going to lose out. Yeah, there we go. Myers moves back out ahead of him. But how much has Ethan Warren lost out of this?
It's Madison down there. So where's Richard Hampstead and all of that? Richard Hampstead ahead of Brady Myers still, but not by much. As Madison down, now ahead of Ethan Warren, but they are all in a line still on track. So that's important to note. And they've got a gap of, well, 12 seconds from Hampstead up the road to Ian Ford. So plenty of clean air here for the Trans-Tasman train to get back into a rhythm. Griffin Gardner there slots in behind them all. And then... well, we've got Rainer Costello, who is yet to pit, and Andrew Dyson behind them further still. Yet to pit as we're looking here. Corey McFarlane having a fight here with Dylan Rudd. And I think McFarlane, having made a move, there on Rudd, but overdrove the car through 10A-10B. Rudd gets the crisscross back, but dives immediately into the pit lane and follows Rick Kuznetsov in. So those two drivers have been close to each other on track, the 008 and the 990. And once again, they stick together into the pit lane. Look at this, Myers back on the bumper of Hampstead once again. So that's interesting. Filsell and Anderson, well, they're coming up through turns 6 and 7 at the moment. So they're, well, a ways away from making any commitments to the pit lane. But Anderson stuck behind several lap cars. Filsell has a bit of a breather to the next bit of traffic ahead.
So everyone except for the top 6 runners have now jumped into the lane, as that is the 41 of Andrew Dyson coming in for his scheduled pit stop after having to take a penalty drive-through earlier. And across the line goes one of the Synergy Mustangs, looking a bit further back in the field. Meanwhile, this is Lob.
Here comes
and
Filsell to the pits.
For 21st. Oh, yes. So Jared Filsell into the lane. What's
Anderson keeps going, though.
Okay.
So there's some fuel saving, I think.
Yeah, and I think at this point, if you're Anderson, you'd have to do something a bit different if you want to try and gain some places. He'll go for 2 short stints to end off the race, but this is going to be critical here for Filsell. That extra time staying out, has it been enough for him to negate the potential undercut from Richard Hampstead? Pulls up in the box very nicely, does Richard. Jake Maloney and Corey McFarlane both come into the pits behind him, so that only leaves Anderson and Rivera and Ian Ford as the final 3 cars yet to make their first stop of the race. So Filsell, this is going to be tense here, waiting for the service to get done.
Hampstead's beat him.
Oh, he has. Oh, that is a long stop for Filsell. Very long.
5 seconds longer, yeah.
Filsell's come out behind Luke Rosella. He's in 10th place.
Yeah. 6 seconds longer So that is a very interesting move there from Phil. So clearly massively filling the tank up there, but now he's going to have a lot of work to do, and he still has one more pit stop to make because of the compulsory stop requirements.
Yeah, that's just going to be difficult for Phil to pull off as Anderson comes into the lane from the overall race lead as he followed in by Marcelo Rivera and Ian Ford, I wonder. Not seeing any trace of them, no. It looks like Rivera and Ford, they're likely going to stay out here for just a little longer. So now Anderson, the last of our leaders to come into the lane. Where is he going to come out in the midst of all of this? The running order has worked out to be Brady Myers ahead of Richard Hampstead. Myers has made a move on his teammate there. So your effective top 5 going to be Myers, Hampstead, Warren, Down, and Griffin Gardner.
You see here, Anderson still in the box. And indeed, he's going to be behind Griffin Gardner and Luke Rosella there. And, yep, Jared Filsell's going to get through as well. So a real reshuffle of the top 10 there. Now that the pit cycle is, well, nearly complete, I should add, because, indeed, the Evolution Racing Team cars of Rivera and Ford are yet to come in and clearly going about as long as they can. You would think here, not much value, well, we presume, to coming in this lap. But I guess we'll wait and see how that plays out. You can see here Anderson getting back up to speed. Now, the critical thing I think to note, Reese, is that presuming that the other Trans-Tasman cars are filled for a certain number here, Filsell has them covered by 6 seconds when it comes to the fuel number. The gap from Myers to Filsell, 7 seconds currently on circuit.
As there's the move for Luke Rosella, Griffin Gardner letting him go there. I think Gardner has other things on his mind rather than defending, so he'll let Rosella go there up into what is now 7th place. And yeah, the point that you make there is we are now past half race distance, the beginning of lap 31. Josh Anderson and Jared Filsell, they would have definitely filled up the car quite a bit there on their first stop, and it's also just before the halfway point of the race. So their final pit stops are going to be incredibly short. They'll have nice light cars with fresh tyres at the end of the race, which could definitely change things when it comes to that second pit stop, which should be coming very soon.
Indeed. The question is, for someone, well, you presume the guys who went long here in this opening stint, they will look to do a short final and push the tyres as hard as they can, as we continue to watch the guys that were battling earlier on in this mid-pack here. Lee Ellis and, pardon me, Lee Ellis is a bit further down the road. That's, we're focusing on Wayne Burke once again there in the 89. He's got Josh Thomas ahead in 24th, and then Sebastian Flock behind for 26th. They're all fairly close to each other here on circuit. So make their way down the end. Yes, meanwhile, towards the front of the field, Richard Hampstead is now really starting to shadow Brady Myers at a close distance here recently. I think I've seen a couple of moments where, well, Myers doesn't look like he's got a little turn in here perhaps once, but we'll wait and see if that's maybe just minor moments there for the 22, or if that's something a bit, or something else there at this stage.
Well, we'll keep tabs on that. I can report, though, that Tom Freer has become our first retirement of the night. He pulled into the pits for a second time and has manually disconnected from the server. A shame for him. But we look at Jared Filsell as he catches up to Luke Rosella. And this is the battle for 7th place that we're seeing at the moment. Big pace difference between Rosella and Filsell. As you can see, the exit of turn 5 definitely with the Synergy Boost mobile machine of Jared Filsell. But he's probably not going to go for the move here at turn 7. Filsell's experienced enough racer that he knows a move there is unnecessary when you've got such a long straight here to make your way past him. Looks like Rosella's going to make the job easy for him here. Just let him go, as there's Anderson in the background trying to size up Griffin Gardner. Is Gardner going to fight this as hard? No, it looks like he's just going to lift out of it here and let them go. He knows that they're driving fundamentally different races, and Gardner still has another pit stop to make, I would presume, very shortly. He's currently been out there for 13 laps. I would expect him to go for another 10 or so, and I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Anderson and Philsell go for a short little splash and dash towards the end of the race.
If they've got enough fuel on board, they may be able to get away with just changing the tyres as well at their final stop, as they got to that critical lap number you pointed out at the top of the broadcast. So you would think they are home safe from here, whereas everyone else is limited to some extent. Meanwhile, well, now Philsell is clear. The gap is at 6.5 seconds to Myers in the net race lead. Speaking of which, only Marcelo Rivera remains out in front. Ian Ford has come down the lane last time around and has slotted back into 21st. So we can roughly expect that Rivera was about 10 seconds up the road from Ford. So we should see Rivera then slot in around, looking at probably 16th, 17th place, just in behind Dylan Rudd, maybe ahead. Wait and see. Is on board with Anderson there, Reese. And I think, Rosella is actually going to contest this one into 10A, though.
Yep. I'm not surprised, because Rosella's part of the Synergy Sim Racing crew, and so is Jared Philsell. Decided to make it a little bit more difficult for Anderson there. Griffin Gardner, though, has managed to get back by Luke Rosella in the midst of that. As Marcelo Rivera jumps into the pit lane, he's already in his pit box, and the pit stop is almost complete there for Rivera. The one driver to basically run the tank dry there. And where is Rivera going to come out? He's going to be smack dab in the midfield there, as the likes of Kuznetsov, Rudd and Briggs are with him there too. Rivera comes out in 15th place, just behind Rick Kuznetsov. And looking at that run there for Rivera, he's actually lost out on where he started. So maybe he's thinking he's gearing up for just a tyre-only pit stop towards the end. Try and minimize that stop time as much as possible and see where he stacks up. He should be around P12, considering his qualifying pace.
Good notes there indeed. Well, he's got to find about, only 3.5 seconds to get back to P12. So the question is whether he's willing to burn this set of tyres here and split the race from this point onwards. So we're looking at only doing about 15 or so laps on each set of tyres here, rather than stretching them out. Meanwhile, just up ahead there, that was Jordan Ross up the inside of Brenton Hobson that was 11th place. So change of positions there between the Synergy machines. And Jordan Ross a little bit off his pace, I think, Reese, given the form we saw last round out that you pointed out earlier. I mean, still, the 11th place is decent by all means, but again, just the nature of the series and the competition that we're seeing, as always, this year means that, well, 11th place when if you can get in, you're finishing inside the top 10 on a semi-regular occasion. When you're outside that top 10, seems like a bit of a slump, or at least a bit of an off week, at least in comparison to the others.
Yeah, well, some drivers are going to be stronger at some tracks than others, and Canadian Tire Motorsport Park was definitely to Jordan Ross's liking. Maybe not so much here at Road Atlanta, but still, there's just about half the race still to go, and there's every chance that something out of left field can happen. Maybe a driver jumping off the circuit, having a heavy crash, having to bring the safety car out. That could completely change the face of this race. Looking a bit further up the front of the field, meanwhile, we were talking about Brady Myers and Richard Hampstead before. Well, have a look at Hampstead now. He's starting to drop off the back of Myers and is coming under an attack here from Ethan Warren. Remember, Warren made that slight mistake in his stop where he slightly overshot the box. Well, it seems he's still in contention here for potential third place, depending on what happens to Jared Philsell and Joshua Anderson.
Yes, indeed. That certainly could be a sign of things to come. Meanwhile, I think one of the things we should maybe have a look at if we're looking for something a little bit different on track, there's currently a 5-car battle for 30th. That, well, it got a little bit spicy through turn 6, but we've got ourselves 2 of the Pursuit cars, 2 of the Taipan cars. We've got, locking brakes there from, that's Colton Talley out there through the middle of the corner there. Goodness me, I missed out if that was Hayden Harrison or his teammate, Todd Hayne. But yeah, Matt Bolwer, Todd Hayden Harrison, also got Rainer Costello in here for in the ERT entry, and then Telly Ansich there. These guys all running together here as fighting over what is actually a 29th place to be precise. And, well, interesting little scrap they've got going on here because they're really going at it with this lot. And for a second there, when you were talking about maybe a safety car coming out, when I saw Bowler at the front of the train leaning on one of the Type Bank cars for turn 6, I'm wondering, like, this feels like the kind of place it might happen in that case.
Well, it almost happened for Ben Christensen. He was the car that you saw spinning off in the background coming out of 10B. Christensen's dropped off the back of these guys into 36th place.
Oh, no.
Oh, there's a problem for Corey McFarlane, it seems. He's fallen way down the order there. He's managed to get back. Oh, has he getting back going? Oh, this could be... Oh, no, he's just waiting for the traffic to go by and get back up to speed. That's a shame there for Corey McFarlane. What on earth happened to him coming into turn 6? Looks like that's interesting. I've just gone back to see what happened to him. All he did was pull over. I think he might have a hardware issue.
Yeah, it's understeered through turn 5. And then, yeah, down the straight, gives the steering wheel a couple of wobbles, and then pulls it over. So yeah, I'm gonna suspect. Yeah, I think you're onto something with that diagnosis there. And oh yeah, when he parks up, the steering wheel snaps all of a sudden, hard left. So
okay,
yeah,
that's lucky for Corey McFarlane. Imagine if that happened when the car was at speed.
And he's brought the car down onto pit lane, so he's been able to bring that back in. So yeah, if we actually jump on board if we can before when he pulls it up, watch his steering wheel snap violently when he stops the car.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh, that was just in time for Corey McFarlane. Perhaps he unplugged the wheel to reset it and get back going. He did wait for the other cars to go by first, so that's going to really hurt Corey McFarlane. Well, you talk about things that put people out of contention in real-life racing, like suspension, arms failing, linkages getting out of whack, or misfiring cylinder. Well, if you're in sim racing, it's stuff like that that puts you out of contention. Hardware issues, the hardware speaking to the software, not quite in the same language at some points. It's just what you got to deal with in online racing.
Yep, it's a different kind of failure, but still certainly mechanical. Well, it can be digital and software related, but it's also the fact that there is a hardware element, as always. You can see here, Kurt Stenberg currently running up in 15th place. He has lost, obviously, a couple of spots from where he started this one, but currently following Rick Kuznetsov and Marcello Rivera around. He's in a relatively nice place. There's, well, hello there. Madison down up the inside. Jared Filso at 10A, 10B.
Oh.
He's got the move done for now, but Filso crisscrosses back underneath after Down was deep on the brakes to try and make the move stick. They're side by side through turn 12 here. Down's going to hold him tight.
Oh, in the background, you see him.
Ooh, Down hangs on in the grass, though. Trying to keep the battle on there as we continue to watch. That's Richard Hampstead. He's got Ethan Warren for pressure. Unfortunately, their apologies for the issue there. And Downs had to back off there for a whole moment in behind Anderson. So...
All right, well, we'll get a replay of what happened there between Phil Sell and Down going defensive there, getting past Phil Sell potentially. Oh, my goodness. Phil Sell really pushing the issue up the inside, but shows the respect between these guys that they were still able to give each other space. Yes, Madison ended up going off the circuit, but Phil Sell was slightly ahead at that point, it seems. Those guys have raced against each other for years, and they know exactly how each other ticks. So as we go back to live pictures, we will see Richard Hampstead now trying to line up a move here on Brady Myers for the race lead. These guys have really closed up now, haven't they? Myers had a good advantage over Hampstead just before, one of the last times we were looking at them. Actually looks like Myers made another mistake coming into turn 7. He just ran a bit too far over the curb and ended up having to gather it up on the way onto the back stretch. Well, either way, it's Trans-Tasman 1-2-3, Daniel, and that is exactly what that team wants.
Yep, can't be much better than that. I mean, the other thing would be if they can somehow dislodge Jared Filsell from the top 5, I dare suggest, given where their guys are at here at this stage of the race. Just here a quick look back at the history there. It was actually Filsell, yes indeed, passing Down getting back past under brakes, but then the crisscross, because Down was in too deep at 10B. And the resulting attempt to try and get back past again resulted in the 2 wide through turn 12. Pretty perilous stuff there. It's a bit of a gamble to make that work there, but indeed they were able to commit there without sending either of them into the fence, which is good to see as we watch back again. Wayne Burke once more. Burke still down the field, currently 21st place, is on the back bumper of Lee Ellis once again. It's been a little while since that's been the case, race, but these two looking racy once again. Looks like Burke at the moment's got the speed, unless, well, it looks like that's the case, and you can see there in behind, Sebastian Flock, Sean McNamara, and Josh Thomas in their own little pack there as Burke. Yeah, he certainly looks a little bit more racy than Ellis at this stage. Ellis there, a little wide of the apex. That's not going to help his run onto the back straight here.
Well, let's see what Mr. Burke can do here in the slipstream. Ellis is going to go middle of the road there, but Burke is forced to commit to what will be an outside line for 10A and 10B. How's this going to work out between the two of them? Burke moves ahead of Ellis. Does Lee fight it? Doesn't look like it. Just slots in behind and will try his best to follow Burke through. Meanwhile, while all of that was happening, Chris Coxhead has become the first driver to take a second scheduled pit stop. He's just come out of the lane with a 13.7 second stop time. So that tells you what these guys will be going for in the final stages of the race. Coxhead now in 36th place. But he's got just about everyone ahead of him who's only taken one scheduled stop. You will say potentially that the likes of Andrew Dyson and Wayne Burke have made 2 visits to the lane, but remember, for both of those guys, one of them was for a penalty.
Yes, that is indeed things to note there. So, yeah, Coxhead, the only driver who will be done from here on out. But question is, having come in on lap 39, going to have to do a good 23 laps on those tyres. How long can he make those last? I do wonder, as we have a look here at Marcello Rivera.
And what do you know? He's made his way back into 12th.
Yep, indeed he has. Up now, Brendan Hobson in behind him, I should say. Have a quick look and see. That was a pass that was done somewhat recently. Yep, under brakes at 10A, 10B. Fairly straightforward move there between those two guys. So, no surprises there. And they make their way down the hill once more, and well, brought Rick Kuznetsov into that there a bit on the back of Hobson, that is. So again, that 008, been quiet mid-phase of the race, Reese, but still, yeah, turning out the laps. And Ethan Stenberg, they're back there in the 47, just in shot, which gives him half a chance as we go back to the front of the field, and it's Trans-Tasman 1, 2, 3 unchanged for now still. 22 leads 28, leads 59.
Just going to make a couple of notes here. Corey McFarlane has decided to retire from the race. I think he couldn't get those hardware issues sorted, so he becomes our second retirement of the night. And interesting to note as well for Ian Ford, he came in for a second stop very shortly after his first one, and it was 56 seconds. So I think Ian Ford may have picked up a speeding into pit lane penalty.
He had a black flag shortly after his first stop, yes.
Okay.
So I actually suspect something happened on the exit, and he's opted to take his second stop and serve the penalty at the same time, perchance.
Luke Rosella comes into the pits. He's been stopped now for about 17 seconds. Should be coming up to the end of his stop pretty soon. He ran another 17 laps there, so he's decided to go for a short stint to end the, or short middle stint, I should say. Rosella comes out in 26, just behind Blake Warboys, but we focus on the top 3 at the moment. This Trans-Tasman trio of Myers, Hampstead, and Warren. Looks like Phil Sell, well, he's worked his way back up into 4th here along the way, and I think he'll definitely be a threat for the race lead at this point. There he is, just coming out of turn 11 with Josh Anderson still in tow. Now, has Anderson actually gained on Phil Sell since we last checked in on them? Because I could swear they're a bit closer together now.
It's definitely a gain, and looking at the last lap times, it's only a 10th, but well, a couple of tenths here and there. That will start adding up. And let's have a look at Phil Sol's pace consistently in the low 119s. Anderson, though, an 18.8, sorry, on lap 42. I think that's where the bulk of the gains lie in recent history, at least, because otherwise they've been fairly consistent between the pair of them. So, yeah, here now, Anderson perhaps showing his decision to go after short stint pace here at this stage. Possibly looking here at a signal from Anderson, perhaps, that his intention is to split this end half of the race fairly even. Whereas Phil Sol perhaps playing a longer game here and maybe conserving the front tyres as well, perhaps, to try and gamble on taking rears only for a final stop. Unlikely, given the length and the age of the tyres that will be on the front of that car if he does choose to make such a move. But it would save time in the stop, so I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We shall, and I mean, not only was it a different race format at Mosport with the double sprint, but we would also have seen drivers going for rears only in those stops because traction was so important around Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Here at Road Atlanta, the track is a lot more twisty, so you would suspect that drivers would go for all four tyres in both stops just to maintain a nice neutral car on the way through. Rears, I think, are always part of the equation when you take a tyre stop in these cars because they just produce so much power that breaking traction on old rears is not desirable. As we see Dylan Rudd making his way into the lane. Brenton Hobson's already there, stopped for his second pit of the race. They're joined by Lee Ellis, Sebastian Flock and Josh Thomas, who were battling for 21st place at that time. And it also looks like Adam Briggs and Blake Warboys have made their way in too. And off the jacks goes Dylan Rudd, 16.3 seconds stopped. It's roughly in line with what we would expect from a late race pit stop there.
Yes, it is quite short. Compared to some of the other people who have pitted. Let's see. Luke Rosella, the leader of those who have stopped twice, 25 seconds for his second stop there. But yeah, Brenton Hobson just under 18.
Yeah, big move. Right. Warren and Downer in the lane.
So there we go. There's a little bit of an early call there. And Ethan Grigalt follows them in from the top 10. So here we go. Some more moves from the drivers. Ethan Warren at the front of his box, but this time does get on the marks exactly as he needs. And yeah, I think maybe these guys here looking to try and force the issue on guys like, well, Phil Sol is the primary target still at this stage. And well, Anderson is keeping in company as they go Warren away, 20 seconds pretty much on the dot. He's just going to get out ahead of Brian Bork in the 017. And that puts Warren in 11th currently. Lap traffic is Sebastian Flock, though, directly ahead of him on circuit. So we'll want to try and get past the 84 as soon as he can. Madison Down has come out just a little bit further down the road in 13th place with some clean air ahead. But the 99 of Darren Lobb is, well, for the time being at least, in the way. Although we'll have another stop to make which will get him out of the way, I should say.
Well, a few more takers on the lane. Brett Loxton and Sean McNamara, they exit the lane. Raina Costello and Justin Wallace in the lane too. And these guys are all a lap down on our race leaders at the moment, but remember, the leaders still have to come in, that being Myers and Hampstead. Meanwhile, Griffin Gardner, Jake Maloney and Jordan Ross making moves into the lane from inside the top 10.
Yep,
Griffin Gardner jumps in as well.
That he does indeed. So, handful of cars still out on track. In fact, Darren Lobb joins them in the pit lane as well, so that's going to clear up the track between Madison Down and Ethan Warren. Although there is a relatively healthy gap between the two of them at this stage, so that will mean, and in fact, yeah, there's only one car in between them now in terms of lap traffic, so that's worked out quite nicely for the number one, 15.8 in the box. Meanwhile, for Jordan Ross, that's going to send him out. Looks like 14th outright. Yep, just going to get ahead of his teammate Luke Rosella there on the exit, and yeah, Rosella's not going to fight that one through hard, I would think. So yeah, now a lot of guys deciding to make the commitment here with just under 20 laps to go.
Myers among them. He's just come in from the race lead.
All right, so the question is, can Myers push appropriately here to the end of the race? So starting lap 48, yeah, looking at 15 laps on those tyres, I believe. Yes, 15 laps will be on those tyres then. So relatively short final stint for the 22, but shorter still for the guys who opt to stay out on track here. Kuznetsov and Kurt Stenberg have also joined him in the lane. And yeah, gap, there you go, to the lead. 4.75 seconds for Jared Filsell, the Richard Hampstead, and he has 6 seconds advantage on fuel in theory, but I get the feeling he's overfilled the car at this point, Reese, because we'll wait and see. It depends on what tyre strategies people go for, but I feel like I'm not convinced we're going to see 6 seconds difference in the lane, given that they all stopped around the critical lap.
Well, there's Filsell and Anderson. They are followed by a lapped TTR machine. And that is going to be the number 18 of Lee Ellis, who's got Adam Briggs, just behind him for position. In comes Jared Filsell. Looks like Anderson is going to go at least one more lap here. And also got news from race control. Joshua Thomas was given a drive-through penalty for exceeding 20 incidents. Something that we haven't mentioned tonight yet, actually, the incident limit in these races. An incident limit was installed this year to try and curb some driving standards, and it has worked so far. It was 30 for the opening round at Montreal, but down to 20 incidents for future rounds. Thomas, the only driver to exceed that limit so far, it seems. Everyone's kept it nice and clean for the most part, as Filsell is now coming up towards the end of his pit stop. How long is it going to be for him? 15.4 seconds. Okay, so he's actually come out behind Brady Myers and Ethan Warren. Where are Myers and Warren? In fact, they've just come out of turn 2, and Filsell just exiting that himself.
Yep, so 3 seconds is the answer there, so gonna have to find a bit of time there. He's got also 4 seconds back to Madison Down. Next car behind him for position, so there's a bit of a strategy play there, but it looks like for now, if Warren and Myers can keep the tyres underneath their cars, they're in an okay spot. It's all on Filsell then, I should say, to make the work happen. Although advantage for Filsell is right now it's a clean bit of track between them both, so won't have to deal with traffic here. Sebastian Down just trying to signal a little bit early here to Sebastian Flock to step aside, please. And indeed, 84 definitely backs that one off nice and early. Avoid any issues there, and let the number 1 go on. Meanwhile, Richard Hampstead and Marcelo Rivera down on the pit lane both. So I'll be curious to see this here from the 28. Obviously right up the front of the lane here. 18.3 in the box for that 28. He's going to come out behind Myers and Warren, but just behind Warren there. So he's going to get out ahead of Filsell just. So there we go. That's now 3 TTR cars that Filsell's going to have to deal with at this stage. Surely Anderson is going to think about coming in soon, because you would think being behind Filsell and now on all the tyres, and he's definitely down on pace at this stage.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson comes into the pits at the end of this lap, but good call, I think, by Richard Hampstead to work his strategy the way he did. Filsell, it was a pretty bold decision to go long on the first stint, but ultimately seems like it hasn't worked out for him. Maybe Filsell on those fresh tyres. We know how quick he is on one lap pace. A blistering driver is Jared Filsell. But the TTR cars were quite close to him in qualifying, so one lap pace for those guys certainly good as well. Filsell's going to have to hope that he can pick up a slipstream and hope that those guys fight amongst each other, as in comes Joshua Anderson. Now, where is he going to come out? Remember, he was just behind Jared Filsell before Jared decided to commit to the lane. How long is Anderson's stop going to be? It was 15.4 seconds for Jared Filsell. How long is it going to be for Anderson? Just a little bit quicker, it looks like, to the tune of about a second. Is Anderson going to be out? No, he's not. Filsell filters ahead of him there. But Anderson, with a lap fresher tyres, might be able to attack if Filsell burns his tyres out here trying to catch up to that TTR trio in the top 3.
Yeah, well, 2 laps advantage to be precise for that. 36 machine. But yeah, I think he's got to balance the fine line of getting the car up to speed and not overdriving the tires. Meanwhile, lap traffic ahead, I think, is actually just given, that's given Phil Sell a massive leg up because the TTR cars have been a bit balked by it. Who have we got there? It's the 115 of Ian Ford. That's definitely hurt them through that opening sector. The gap was around 2 seconds. It's now down to 1.2, Reece. So, well, game on here with 11 and a half to go.
Absolutely. Well, I think Ian Ford, he didn't quite make it easy for Hampstead and Warren. Actually split them and Myers for a second, which has allowed Myers to get away and has made Richard Hampstead now have to look over his shoulder for his TTR teammate. If these guys start fighting, and if Hampstead can't find a little bit of extra pace to try and drag his teammate back up to Myers, then Phil Sell's going to be right in it. But Phil Sell gets let by Ian Ford on the way into turn 1, but a slightly compromised line on entry is not going to work out too well here for Phil Sell, our championship leader. Tell you what, that Boost Mobile Commodore, we're going to be seeing some very fast times from it now, because the next bit of lap traffic is still a few seconds up the road. It's Kenneth Latter in 35th place. And was the fastest lap, the fastest car on track last time for Jared Phil Sell, 18.3. It's Ethan Warren who holds on to the fastest lap of the race overall, 1 minute 18.272 for him, but he was 0.8 off that last time by.
Yeah, clearly. Now comes the guessing games, and well, how about this, Reece? Indeed, as the time ticks on in games, we're approaching 6 o'clock in sim time. Track temperature is down to 24 degrees, so expect that fastest lap of the race to be within a good chance of being broken here if the drivers have got a tyre life underneath them. And I mean, well, look at this. Phil Sell now 0.9 of a second back off Ethan Warren ahead. Yes, Josh Anderson is only 0.4 behind as well, so got to watch out front and rear, I suppose. They come across the line, and in fact, there we go. New fastest lap of the race goes to Josh Anderson in 5th. 1:18.19 for the 36 car there.
That was nearly 0.5 quicker than Jared Phil Sell up ahead, and 0.7 faster than Warren. So this is going to be an interesting into the race if Anderson can keep this pace up. He's caught right up to Phil Sell now, and having said that, Phil Sell catching up to Warren and Hampstead, 0.2 faster than them on the last lap. Was the 3-time champion and championship leader in the number 94. It's now a proper 5-car train here for the race lead. This is going to be a great end.
And we've got 9 and a bit laps to go here. So, well, question is, how much does the team game affect how Trans-Tasman play this one? It's a 4-on-1 fight, which does sound a little bit unfair in a pure sporting, well, pure competition terms, but well, we know that Phil Sell is a skilled pair of hands, but then again, so is Anderson, so is Warren, so is Myers, so is Hampstead, so is very much, seems like back against the wall for that 94 car to improve, but well, one little mistake, such as a little mistake there from Ethan Warren on the final turn, that's the kind of stuff that will give Phil Sell an opening as through turn 1 they go, but at this stage, Anderson a little bit closer again. And then Phil Sell is to Warren, but we'll have to see how things pan out in the second half of the lap. Last time round, a couple spots were like the exit of turn 5. Look at Anderson pushing a little harder compared to Phil Sell and lost a bit of ground out of this corner here. See what the runner's like. Less curb usage, I think, from Anderson to try and get better drive. Yeah, that's more like it, I think, because like last time he tried to drive it in too deep and took a little bit of a punishment as a result. But look at that now. 0.2 up forward and back, it would seem here. And well, we've got lap traffic in the form of, I believe, Kenneth Latter. Yep, Latter, the next car that'll be going down a lap here. But the train will want to get past it. Who is the one to get cut off as they head down to 10A, 10B, Reece?
Well, there's a gap that Kenneth Latter can slot into, and he's going to actually let them all go on the way into 10A and 10B. But Anderson is closer to Phil Sell than he's ever been. In fact, right on the bumper now of the 94 with tyres that are 2 laps fresher. Anderson has the newest tyres in the top 5. Oh, it's not going to help him too much there. Big snap through the final corner, and he's lost all that advantage.
Yep, I saw it from Ethan Warren last lap around, and yeah, now Anderson's turn to make that small mistake. And well, look at that. He closes it back up pretty quickly there through turns 2 and 3. But yeah, now they're all in the train here, and we've got 8 and 7.5 laps to go, pardon me. Well, sizing each other up at this stage, you would think, where am I stronger than the guy ahead of me? Where am I weaker than the guy ahead? For those of the guys who are, well, everyone but Anderson, where am I stronger than the guy behind? Where am I weaker than the guy behind? And yeah, is there some other place in the rundown to 10A, 10B that I should think about making a move? It would look like at this stage, not really, because obviously making an attack at one of the other spots on the circuit, that's going to be incredibly fraught to danger. This time though, Hampstead looks pretty close to Myers. In fact, that's right on the rear bumper. Surely, with the way Hampstead has been racing his teammates, well, they've been racing each other this race, he thinks about it, but yeah, no, tucks back in, but puts himself in a spot here where he can possibly, yeah, straighten the car up, better drive off the final turn. Myers, though, looks to have a decent run, but again, it just brings everyone back together that little bit more as up over the crest you coming. See there, look how much curb they're using to really try and keep the power down through turn 12. Going to have ourselves 6 laps of racing here. Oh, sorry, 7 laps of racing, my apologies, to go here at the Road Atlanta 250, thanks to Too Easy Finance.
All right. So through the S's, lap traffic has been cleared for a little while longer. The next car up the road is Ben Christensen in 34th, and they've got, I'd say, probably about 5 or 6 seconds on him at this stage, so they're free to race each other. Anderson unable to catch back up to Phil Sell. The tyres would have been overheated slightly with that slide through the final turn that he had, but Hampstead not quite able to get the exit he needs on Brady Myers. They're going to remain line astern. That little bit of side-by-side between them has helped to compress the top 4. But will Anderson be able to get it done here? It's going to be almost another move for Richard Hampstead. Gets the slipstream on Myers, but Brady will remain ahead into 10A and 10B. No change for position this time around. And when all the cars are this close together like this, Dan, you've got to be so careful trying to go for moves, especially if you're a driver like Jared Philsell. If you try and go for a move on Ethan Warren for third and you don't end up getting it done, that's going to allow Richard Hampstead and Brady Myers to get away, and that's your chance at the win gone. If he sits just behind them here and tries to, you know, work out a move from a little bit further back, then that could work out better for him.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 coin toss at this point, I'd say, Reese. We've got 6 laps to go here, or we did have 6 laps to go, I should say, at the line. So you've got to really decide. I mean, yeah, you make a move that's a bit of a 50-50 gamble at this stage, and yeah, get it wrong. And even if you make the move stick, if you lose too much time to the guys ahead, yeah, that blows the chance, because they're now all lapping 119.1, 119.0s, 119, well, actually, oh yeah, everything between 119.1 and the 119.0. So that's the kind of pace consistency we're seeing from this group now. They're bunched up and really trying to figure something out here in terms of pace and position. As we watch that lovely little static cam back to Griffin Gardner in 9th spot. So here we come down the straight once again. A little bit of movement from these guys.
Whoa, Phil Sell. He saw Anderson coming, didn't he? Said, no thank you, mate. Not this time.
Yep, so we're going to have 5 at the line, Reese. No movements just yet. And let's have a look here through turn 12. Look at that, Myers is breaking another little gap on Hampstead this time. So just half a second at this stage, but that's the kind of breather that he needs to be able to hang on to this race at this rate.
How the pace in the top 5 ebbs and flows. Last lap it was Anderson who was the fastest car in the top 5. Now it's Brady Myers. These guys are starting to lose a little bit of pace. Potentially a little bit of dirty air as well. These cars don't have aerodynamics on the level of a single-seater, a Formula 1 car, for example, but they are still more aero-dependent than these types of cars have been in the past. So if you end up getting stuck behind someone, especially through that flowing first sector, then you are going to have a bit of trouble keeping up the pace, keeping the temperature of the tyres within a reasonable range. But the exit onto the back stretch is where these cars really shine. There's a slight fight going on for position there, potentially. Yeah, it is Ben Christensen and Josh Thomas who have just traded positions ahead of them. And if those guys keep battling with each other like they seem to be, then these guys will come up on them within, I'd say, 2 laps at this stage. No change for position again. Everyone's just waiting for that final chance. I think it's all going to go off with maybe a lap to go. That is, if no one makes a mistake here and lets them go. Myers continuing to increase the gap there over Richard Hampstead. The fastest car on track is our race leader. I think he's been leaving those tyres in reserve.
That would be a good indication of things as they stand forward to go at the line here. And yeah, no sign of any clear moves from the guys back here, particularly Phil Sell and Anderson. Obviously, Ethan Warren now looks like he's maybe sizing up Richard Hampstead for a potential switch there at some point. Obviously, you've got to be very careful about how you do it because, yeah, get this wrong. And it's not so much the fact that the race leader chips away because, of course, Myers here just continuing to chip in, or chip away, I should say. Hundredths by hundredths, it seems. He's getting away here. At the stage of the race, although this time off of turn 7. Let's see there, it's very even for now. I think Myers is maybe getting the hint of a slipstream off Christensen. Not 100% sure now. You can see that Hampstead is closing in a little bit on the straights, but then under brakes, obviously that will all sort of stabilize out here. And as we continue to ride on board here, this is the 59 of Ethan Warren. Yeah, I think just everyone's stuck focusing forward and back that, well, it's a bit hard to really think about making anything for certain because, well, 3 laps to go, Reese. And there we go. Lap traffic. Time to get out of the way, Ben Christensen, because Myers is coming and he wants to get this job done. But he's not going to get it done before turn 2. He's going to get held up.
Oh dear, this could change things. Saw Myers flashing his lights at Christensen on the back stretch, just warning him that they were coming. But Christensen doesn't have any obligation to let them by until right now, pretty much. And is he going to pull over? Oh, he's going to force Myers to make a bit of an evasive maneuver, but he gets on the brakes and lets our top 5 go all in a row before the time they get to turn 6. Well, now Myers doesn't have any slipstream ahead of him. The next car up the road is Michael Taliancic, and he's just gone over the hump that these guys are negotiating now. There he is. There's Taliancic in the bright green 777 machine. And I think with the way things are going, they probably won't catch up to him until the last lap, if at all.
Yeah, let's see. Taliancic last time around 120.7. So touch and go there because, yeah, nearly 2 seconds off the pace of the race leaders now, given that they seem to have saved the best for last when it comes to their pace. And look at that again. Hampstead a little compromised, I think, through that last couple of corners. Warren thinking about a move, but again, you can't really make something work here at turn 1 without compromising yourself and your teammate here, especially given that you've got Phil Sell in behind. So 2 to go now. Do you get a position here on the penultimate lap and accept it for what it is, or do you go for something on the last lap and wait for the very last opportunity? I'm not quite so sure what the best move would be in that case, Reese.
Neither am I, but that's a good exit from Phil Sell out of turn 5. He has a little bit of a look there at Ethan Warren, not close enough to get it done into turn 6 though. Ethan has lost a little bit of ground to Hampstead. It's now more equidistant between the top 3, but Phil Sell right on the bumper. Let's see if he can line one up here in the slipstream. He's close enough to get it done, but it's going to be a late call here at the end of the back straight. Doesn't look like Phil Sell will be able to get it done. Is he going to go for it? He has a bit of a look. No, it's not going to happen for Jared Phil Sell. So there's only going to be one chance left for him here to try and get onto the podium. It's another good exit from Phil Sell. Remember, he has fresher tyres than these guys in front of him. Ethan Warren pitted 16 laps ago as they crossed the line. Phil Sell's tyres are 13 laps old. And it's defensive from Warren. He's going to try and keep Phil Sell off the podium here. Phil Sell might go for the over-under coming up into turn 2. It's a very good exit there from the 94, but he's not close enough. Can't get far enough alongside to get the move done. That has allowed Myers and Hampstead to break away from these guys. So the best Phil Sell can hope for now is 3rd. But he's still got to worry about Anderson behind him in the Cool Drive machine. Anderson with the freshest tyres still in the top 5. Still has a few more oodles of pace to give, as that was almost a mistake there for Myers and Hampstead in the top 2. They will remain nice and stable. Oh,
There it
that
goes.
move from Phil Sell up the inside, but he's not going to get it done. Ethan Warren forced to go wide, and that's actually a benefit when it comes to those slow corners. Now, Phil Sell's getting defensive here versus Anderson. He's going to have to try and protect fourth now at this stage. The battle for the lead is over for Phil Sell, but it could still be a fourth place for Joshua Anderson. Can he get it done on the way into 10A and 10B? A dive up the brakes from the Mustang. The Commodore, though, might hold it here, and he will. Just a little bit of contact, but moving to the front, Brady Myers. What a fantastic race from him. Saved up the best of his tyres until the end, and he's going to take the Road Atlanta 250. It's a 1-2-3 for Trans-Tasman Racing. Richard Hampstead second, and Ethan Warren in third.
V8SCOPS career win number 2 for the 22. And all coming here in 2022 for good measure. Well done to Brady Myers there as we have a look back. Kurt Stenberg and Rick Kuznetsov going at it all the way deep into 10A, 10B. And Wayne Burt, Brendan Hobson, the 88, my apologies, up the inside. He's got one, he's got two, I think, if he can hold it on the inside. Kuznetsov, two in the grass. And Kuznetsov scored ahead of the line, Reese. Mate's going out that wide.
Oh, goodness gracious, that was dramatic at the end. What a fight that was. Last couple of corners, meanwhile, for Chris Coxhead. Can he get it done on Darren Lobb? Doesn't look like it. No space left now in the race. Coxhead's going to have to settle there for 20th position, but that's still a big improvement for him, up 8 places. Meanwhile, Matthew Bowler and Rainer Costello fighting over 27th. Costello had to compromise his line on the way out of 10A, and it looks like Matthew Bowler might have just held on to that as a result.
In the marbles in 10B there, but yeah, that wider exit, able to just straighten the car momentarily earlier. Bowler holds on to 27th place. That's his first top split appearance for the number 6 machine there, so I think he'll be relatively happy with that one there. Also made up spots during the race, so I don't think there's too many negatives to take away for that car. But once again, having a look at your race winner here tonight, and yeah,
out of fuel.
Out of fuel, that means that was prepared quite nicely when it comes to the strategy. We'll have to have a chat to Brady soon about how things felt from the cockpit of his car. But, well, yeah, tonight, Reese, there's there and thereabouts certainly in that front group. And then, well, right at the end of it all there, just bringing in a couple of laps earlier than the others. And that seemed to work out just to perfection. And it came to timing the run to get back into get to the front of the field there.
Indeed, up 3 places for Brady Myers, and he'll be well happy with that one as the field cools itself down on the cool down lap. We'll take a moment to go through our race results here from round 4 of Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS. The Road Atlanta 250 went to Brady Myers. He finishes half a second ahead of his teammate Richard Hampstead. Ethan Warren joins Hampstead in finishing where he started in second and third. Jared Philsell, well, he qualified on pole position, but unfortunately the pit stop strategy gamble didn't pay off for him. He's going to finish just ahead of Joshua Anderson, though, who rounds out the top 5. Madison Down lost out a bit there, was in a bit of a no man's land and stuck in traffic during the mid-phase. He has to settle for 6th. Jake Maloney, though, makes his way into the top 10. Great result for him. Same for Ethan Griggolt. Griffin Gardner finishes in 9th, and Jordan Ross will make it into the top 10.
Over the page, though, is Luke Rosella in 11th place tonight ahead of Rick Kuznetsov there, just fending off Brenton Hobson with all 4 in the dirt there for the 008. Kurt Stenberg followed him through out wide, but it'll be a 14th place for the 47. And then they all ended up ahead of Richie Centaway there. Didn't quite finish for the 62, but a 15th place is a solid outing for Richie there, I dare suggest. Ahead of Marcelo Rivera there in 16th for the 21. Our split 2 winner holds himself up with a respectable 17th place finish there for the 990 ahead of Wayne Burke in the 89 and 18th place. Darren Lobb, 19th place, and Chris Coxhead rounding out the top 20 there in the 208.
His teammate Brett Loxton in the 209 finishes behind him by 4 seconds in 21st place. Adam Briggs comes home in 22nd, with Sean McNamara having to settle for 23rd after getting bumped off the circuit early on. Lee Ellis was able to get a nice clean finish in the number 18, 24th place, though he did lose out in terms of positions. Andrew Dyson had to deal with a penalty. He finishes in 25th, but still that's an improvement on 31st at the start. Todd Hayne finishes in 26th. Matthew Bowler, as you mentioned, Dan, on his top split debut, finishes in 27th place. He'll be happy with that. Rainer Costello makes up 2 places to finish in 28th. Then it's Blake Warboys and Hayden Harrison who round out the top 30.
The page there, Justin Wallace and Michael Talianis, actually our last 2 drivers to finish on the lead lap in 31st and 32nd respectively. Then we get 4 drivers there finishing the race a lap down in the form of Ben Christensen, Kenneth Latta, Ian Ford and Sebastian Flock, 33rd through 36th respectively, and then unfortunately into our retirements. Josh Thomas, a very late retirement there, but 5 laps short at the end. Brian Borg there, 38th and 7 laps short. Dylan O'Shea didn't start off very well, but unfortunately he ends up 10 laps down in 39th. And Corey McFarlane, with what we expect to be technical issues, retiring at about the halfway mark there at 26 laps short, unfortunately, for the 0-9 for their race. Well, that's your race results from that one tonight, and we've got ourselves the race winner standing by, so let's have a chat to Brady Myers. Brady, congratulations there. 2nd race win for the year, and 2nd also for V8SCOPS for yourself there, and you've putting yourself in a really good spot here with this this early phase of the season.
Yeah, that was awesome. I feel like I really worked hard for that one, but that was a really sweet victory, and I'm so stoked to get 2 on the trot, so that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, after the opening stint there, Jared, looked like you had that one relatively comfortably under control, but you guys were all there, keeping him honest there as a train there. I guess with the way the pit strategy played out, did you have sort of any, was it a really sort of solid plan from the start, or were you sort of adapting based on what you're seeing out on track today?
Well, basically it was 5 cars or whatever it was versus Jared, so we needed to play our strength in numbers against him and make sure that we had him covered from all strategy bases. So from how it turned out, I think we maximized everything that we could have achieved in terms of the strategy and race results and everything.
Yeah, I think only unfortunately Ian Madison down there 6th place and a little bit behind you guys, but still was there and put in the good work all the same. So I guess, I mean, yeah, when that final stint came out, you're able to come in that little bit earlier and then get the lead. I guess we were, the pace looked good there to the end, and maybe a couple of moments we thought where it looked like you're under a bit of pressure there from Richard and Ethan, but then almost got a little bit of a breather there towards the end to help you seal the deal, it seemed.
Yeah, Richard was really strong, and the draft down the back straight really helped keep him in. But I feel like I had his measure throughout most of the track for the whole race, so it was just a matter of biding the laps, try and cover him off whenever he had to go, and just it was a really good race. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we've got a bit of a break before the next round in Interlagos now. I guess that kind of time to sort of prepare yourself for what comes next. I guess, do you do any extra preparation given we've got that? So we've almost got a month basically until we go racing again.
Yeah, for sure. Just focusing on the next race and making sure we're all prepped and ready and for whatever may come.
Well, sounds like you guys will be well prepared all the same then. Before we let you go, Brady, a chance to say thanks to partners and sponsors who helped you get it done tonight.
Yeah, just a massive shout out to everyone at TTR. You all put in a lot of effort this week just to get the car dialed in and make sure that we're all happy as a group. And I think from what we've shown tonight, we're pretty on the money. Just a massive shout out to our sponsors. My personal sponsor, Xtrim, Virtual Racing School, Card Effects, TP Race Design. Tim does an awesome job with our cars, so massive thank you to him. And to you guys for the broadcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brady, and look forward to seeing you next round at Interlagos.
Thanks, guys.
Well,
there's our race. Oh, pardon me, Reese. I was just going to say, there's our race winner, and I think it's time to hand over to you, and we'll bring in Richard Hampstead as our 2nd place getter. And yeah, Reese, leave you to have the chat with Richard here.
Indeed. Well, Richard, it was a pretty strong performance from you leading up to this weekend, running the fastest time in pre-qualifying, and you seem to carry that into the qualifying session tonight. What kind of effort were you putting in to get ready for this weekend?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'd probably put in the least effort I put in all year. But it's funny how that works sometimes. Sometimes you put in very little effort and you do really well, and sometimes you put in 20 hours and you come 20th or something. So, no, I didn't put in a whole heap this week. I just thought I'd have a little bit of fun and turned out really, really well, and I was really happy with the pace and how everything worked out.
Yeah, as you should be. Well, it all came down to pit lane at the end of it. What was your approach to the strategy for tonight? Were you adapting it based on what the cars around you were doing?
Yeah, it was a really hard one to call, to be honest. Initially, I was probably thinking of coming in early, but then I know Madison did, and he said he was pretty badly affected by traffic. So then I had to kind of move to a later um, first stop. Then after that was really just trying to work out, because obviously Jared was on a pretty different strategy to the TTR cars. Just trying to work out where I'd be able or when I'd be able to pit to slot out somewhere near him, which I think I timed pretty well. So yeah, I think ultimately the strategy was really good from us tonight.
It certainly helped you in the championship standings as well after not the greatest of showings last round at most sports. You've ended up probably vaulting yourself back up the standings here with a good haul of points for second place.
Yeah, I hope so. It's been a pretty up and down season. Montreal was a bit of a disaster for lots of reasons. Then I had a good one race of the last two rounds each, but good to get a solid result in a 250k around this week.
Well, who do you have to thank for it, Richard?
Yep, big thanks to everyone at TTR. As always, the team's working really well and really hard behind the scenes. Big shout out to all our sponsors as well, particularly Virtual Racing School. It's always really good to be able to use their software and compare against the teammates, which is really, really helpful. So big shout out to them.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Richard Hamstead. Next up, talking to Dan Yeaman, it's going to be the third place driver on the road, Ethan Warren. Fantastic stuff from him.
Yes, it was indeed, Ethan. Well done there on your podium position here tonight. Certainly, yeah, with you guys all running at the front together as a team, how does that sort of change the way you approach a race when you've got teammates to work together with?
Yeah, thanks guys. Pretty happy, pretty stoked with that finish to be honest. After missing, I think the last couple of rounds now, I can't remember, but yeah, just good to get some solid points and working together with teammates is obviously helps a lot, and you just sort of talk strategy between each other, and obviously it worked out well today.
It certainly did between you guys, yeah. I mean, looking at it all, I mean, working with, got Jared, so pardon me, you had Jared there, obviously, and I guess with the focus, we've heard from Brady say the focus was really trying to make sure that as a team collectively, you're doing your best to sort of cover off Jared with as many possible angles. I guess for yourself personally, like looking at your pace today, obviously looked pretty decent, and yeah, I guess maybe some moments there where maybe it could have been you at the front of the train. When you're in a situation, I guess, like given you said there a couple of rounds missed for yourself, do you sort of have any expectations for yourself coming in when you're sort of a bit behind on a season-long perspective?
Not really. I approach every round just the same. I just come in, try and do my best, and if I get a podium or just a decent result, I'm happy. But yeah, I don't put any pressure on myself to perform or anything.
Well, sounds like it's a good return to form for yourself then here for 2022, Ethan. Looking ahead at the rest, I guess the calendar, we've got Interlagos as our next round up, but we've got nearly a month before we see you guys back out on track. I guess with that said, it's a fairly lengthy break. I guess, will you get a chance to do extra preparation, or is it sort of a chance to take a small breather, reflect on today, and then gear up in a couple of weeks to go again when the time comes?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to do some more preparation. Obviously, you can always make improvements on the car, and I think we still got a little bit to work on. So yeah, we'll just use that time to work together on that and see how we go for the next round.
Well, looks like, yeah, the team's in good position here, and definitely plenty of you guys are on the ball. So look forward to seeing what you guys can do. Before we let you go, Ethan, chance to thank the sponsors and partners who helped you get it done tonight.
Yeah, obviously I'd like to thank Virtual Racing School, Extreme Motor Trimming, Cool Drive Auto Parts, Cartafx Model Cars, Leos Designs, and you guys for the broadcast.
There we have it. Ethan Rowan, third place tonight. Well done once again. Well, there, Reese, that's going to wrap up the podium interviews tonight. And, well, after there, the split 2 was a bit of a chaotic to start with, I should say. That one turned out quite well indeed, and well, 0 safety cars as well, despite the somewhat history you were sort of expecting might possibly return once again tonight. But yeah, clean race for the most part, start to finish, and all the guys here on track at the front of the field in particular also delivering a real good race there right to the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very good race here at Road Atlanta, and certainly got a little spicy there on the final lap. But hey, spice is the spice of life, I suppose, in V8SCOPS competition. We want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. A big thanks also to our series sponsors at Virtual Racing School and Too Easy Finance as well. And a big thanks to the guys at Oceanic Sim Racing for putting this whole shebang together and making everything work behind the scenes, officiating, setting up servers, coordinating pre-qualifying times, and all that jazz. I'm Reese Gardner. It's Dan Yeaman alongside me. We will say goodbye for now, but not forever. The next time we'll see you for V8SCOPS action is, of course, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos, and that will be in June. So make sure that you tune in for that. Keep an eye out on our socials for everything to do with that. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognize brake markers, you'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid, you'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise. And you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS Quick Reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire Global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?